Chapter 261. Wyrm walked out of the hole in the wall that was created when he hit Bazette. After coming out, Wyrm saw Ilya and Little Black, who had transformed. One was squatting on the ground looking at Bazette, and the other was looking around vigilantly with Mayu, who had also transformed. After all, they didn't know if there were other enemies around. Bazette was lying on the cracked and sunken ground, constantly struggling to stand up. Wyrm said whether he could survive or not just to scare Bazette. Wyrm controlled his strength very well. He just broke Bazette's spine and other parts of Bazette's arm and leg bones, but he didn't kill Bazette. That caused Bazette to be unable to move normally. However, Bazette was worthy of being called a monster by Rin Enban. Most of his bones and spine were broken, but Bazette was still able to stand up. I really have some doubts about whether you are a human, Bazette. Wyrm looked at Bazette with admiration. No matter what, such an opponent should be respected. Ilya, Mayu, and Little Black took 2 steps back and looked at the magician, who didn't look like a human. Since you now know that I am on their side, then do you still want to seize all the cards? Wyrm wasn't in a hurry to deal with Bazette. Instead, he talked to him. The higher-ups didn't expect that there would be a servant to stop them. The mission has changed. I need to ask the higher-ups for instructions. Although his bones were broken, Bazette seemed to have used some special method to block the pain. Although his body was a little embarrassed, Bazette didn't seem to feel any pain. He was very calm and talked to Wyrm. You don't need to ask the higher-ups. I will go directly to them. You can stay here. After that, Wyrm activated Heaven Lock. Golden spatial ripples appeared around Bazette, and suddenly, golden chains appeared out of nowhere and bound him. The chain that connects the sky and earth of Mesopotamia. Bazette seemed to recognize the chain and gave up struggling. Even if she struggled, she wouldn't be able to break free. What's going on, big brother? Ilya asked, somewhat at a loss. That's right. Don't keep us in the dark. Blackie agreed. Wyrm's big hands instantly pressed Ilya's and Black's heads and rubbed them vigorously. You two, you still have class tomorrow. This is your punishment. Hurry up and go back to sleep. Sob, Little Black and Ilya sobbed. Wyrm let go of Blackie and Ilya, and the two began to complain. Really, Big brother is so rude. Ilya rubbed her hair that was messed up by Wyrm with a red face and complained while looking at Wyrm. Also, why is Mayu fine? Blackie's face was also red as he pointed at Mayu, who was standing beside Wyrm. Me? The little companions who were implicated looked at the two in a daze. Yes, that's right. Mayu also needs to be punished. Then let us punish her. Then, Ilya and Blackie looked at Mayu with an evil expression and walked toward her step by step. Wait a moment. Wyrm took 2 steps back in a panic. Bang! 2 knocks sounded. Wyrm put away the hand that he used to hit Ilya and Blackie, looked at the 2 little Lolas who were hugging their heads, and said, Mayu is much more self-disciplined than the 2 of you. Mayu is such an obedient little sister, so how can I punish her? Only disobedient little sisters can be used to tease. Cough, educate. Sob, big brother is bullying. Ilya looked at Wyrm with tears in her eyes. Yes, big brother is bullying. Blackie also learned from Ilya. The 2 of you. Wyrm shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Then, he used his finger that was infused with magic power to poke their foreheads. It doesn't hurt anymore. Ilya touched her forehead and looked at Wyrm with amazement. It's just a little trick. Hurry up and go back. Ling and Luvia are fine. I will tell you what happened tomorrow. Also, when you came out, you must not have explained to Sela and the others clearly. She must be worried about the 2 of you now. Wyrm reminded. Not good, Blackie, let's go back quickly. Ilya pulled Blackie's hand and hurriedly ran back. Don't pull me, Ilya. At this moment, Rin and Osaka, Luvia and Luvia's butler, August, who had already recovered, walked out of the house. Sister Rin, Sister Luvia, Grandpa August, are you okay? Seeing the few people who were in a sorry state, Meiyu ran over and asked worriedly. Although she knew that her brother Wuming said that they were fine, Meiyu still couldn't help but worry. We are already fine. Thanks to the Lune stone provided by Wuming, the effect was unexpectedly good. Rin and Osaka said and moved his arm to show that he was now very healthy. After all, their sorry state was only because their clothes were dirty in the battle. The injuries caused by the battle had already healed. Thank you for your concern, Meiyu. We are fine. Now, we need to pay attention to the problem of how to deal with this. Luvia finished speaking and looked at Bazette, who was tied up by Wuming's heaven lock. Bazette closed his eyes and looked like he was waiting to be slaughtered. At this moment, Wuming expressed his opinion. Regarding this matter, I will personally go to the clock tower to deal with it. Bazette will stay in the Shuoyu residence. However, not only Rin and Osaka and Luvia, but even August and Meiyu could sense that when Wuming said that he would personally deal with it, his eyes became very scary. However, it was also very reliable. Having a reliable partner is really reassuring. Then, I will leave it to you, Wuming. Rin and Osaka and Luvia looked at each other and smiled. Right, how are you going to sleep tonight? Although the house hasn't completely collapsed, part of the house has been destroyed. How about staying in the Shuoyu residence temporarily? Wuming suggested. August, go and check the damage of the villa. If it really can't be done, we will go to Wuming and Meiyu's house. Luvia ordered her butler. Yes, Mississippi. With that, the strong old man strode toward the back of the villa and began to check the situation of the villa. At this moment, Wuming walked toward Bazette. Wuming, are you going to do something to Bazette? Rin and Osaka asked curiously when he saw Wuming's actions. Yes, I have basically broken all of Bazette's bones. If I don't fix it now, it might leave some hidden injuries in the future. With that, lines of Lune runes representing repair, life, and heal appeared in Wuming's hand and wrapped around Bazette's body. Bazette looked deeply at Wuming and didn't say anything. Then, Rin and Osaka asked. By the way, should we postpone the matter of the 9th rank card? Chapter 262. When Rin Enbin brought up this topic, Meiyu's expression suddenly changed. Wuming naturally noticed it. Let's talk about this tomorrow. It's already late, everyone should go back and rest. Then, without waiting for Rin Enbin and Luvia to react, Wuming opened the teleportation door and left with Meiyu and Bazette. Where Wuming left, a stone engraved with mysterious runes was left there. The stone glowed, and Wuming's voice came from the sky. When you decide to live here, inject magic into this rune stone and it will open the teleportation door. Meiyu and I will go back first. The voice disappeared, and only the runes on the stone glowed. Rin Enbin and Luvia looked at each other, and both of them saw the clues in each other's eyes. Seems like Wuming and Meiyu have some secret that they don't want us to know. And it's a secret that has a lot to do with rank cards. However, the two's conversation ended there. Then, Rin Enbin picked up the rune stone. After this crisis, Wuming's relationship with Rin Enbin and Luvia improved. Since they obviously didn't want them to know, then there was no need to ask. When the time came, Wuming would definitely tell them. Just like Rin Enbin and Luvia, they usually looked like they were fighting to the death, but when the time came, the two of them could cooperate very well. This was the bond that existed even in the dark magician world. Shoasuki Mansion. Wuming walked out of the teleportation door with Meiyu, who was no longer in her transformed state. As for Bazette, she was already thrown into the Shoasuki Mansion by Wuming using the teleportation door. Wuming believed that Bazette wouldn't run away. It should be said that she was trapped in Wuming's magic workshop and couldn't escape. Brother Wuming. Meiyu timidly called out to Wuming. Are you thinking about the 9th rank card? Wuming squatted down and looked at Meiyu. Wuming once told Meiyu that she became a rank card and followed Wuming from another world. However, even if that was the case, there should only be 8 rank cards, and the 9th one shouldn't exist. Brother Wuming, could it be? Wuming looked at Wuming worriedly. Wuming naturally understood Meiyu's meaning. Meiyu was worried that the Ainsworth family chased her to this world. Although Meiyu was once called the Holy Grail by the Ainsworth family, and Meiyu was also the center of the Holy Grail War, but because of the protection of Wuming and Shiro Amiya, Meiyu didn't suffer too much harm, so Meiyu didn't show a particularly scared look. Because Brother Wuming is by my side, as long as Brother Wuming is by my side, I have infinite motivation. Meiyu had always relied on this idea to fight. It's okay, Meiyu. Wuming touched Meiyu's head. I will personally retrieve the rank card, and I will do it with all my strength. After all, he didn't know whether this rank card was Ainsworth's bait, but if he didn't retrieve it, it would cause harm to the ley line, so Wuming decided to retrieve the card in a safe manner. I want to go with Brother Wuming. Meiyu looked at Wuming with particular determination. I now have the power to fight. Although I am very happy to accept Brother Wuming's protection, if possible, I want to fight with Brother Wuming. Wuming, who had long guessed that Meiyu would say this, smiled with some relief. It's good that you have such thoughts, but you have to know one thing, Meiyu. If this is a conspiracy of the Ainsworth family, then they will definitely play tricks after we enter the mirror world. As their target, you are the first person to bear the brunt of their protection. This is why I want you to retrieve the card with me. Moreover, if I encounter any traps or accidents in the mirror world, you and Ilya can still support me outside. If we are all turtles in a jar, then everything is over. Wuming persuaded Meiyu earnestly. But, shouldn't Brother Wuming, the strongest one, be the trump card? Meiyu was still a little worried about Wuming. However, Wuming shook his head. It's because I'm the strongest, so if it's a conspiracy of the Ainsworth family, it's better for me to deal with it than for you to deal with it. For the time being, let's not talk about the conspiracy of the Ainsworth family. Except for me, I'm afraid that all of you can't defeat the servant who has absorbed the magic power of the ley line for a month. I know, Brother Wuming. Looking at Meiyu, who was a little unwilling, but still nodded, Wuming smiled. Well, I know you are worried about me, but the role you play outside is also very important. Wuming rubbed Meiyu's hair and comforted her. I know, Brother Wuming, don't rub it anymore, my hair is going to become a chicken's nest. Meiyu protested. Looking at Meiyu, who had returned to her original state, Wuming nodded. Then, Wuming hugged Meiyu and put his forehead close to Meiyu. I will let you live a peaceful life, I swear by myself. Wuming said quite calmly. Well, I believe in you, Brother Wuming. The stars in the sky shone on the brother and sister for a long time. The next morning, Meiyu went to Ilya's house and went to school with Ilya. Rin Tasaka and Livia took half a day off and discussed with Wuming. After Wuming's inspection yesterday, although Livia's villa didn't collapse, there were no more bedrooms or guest rooms that could be used. Therefore, after Wuming coaxed Meiyu to sleep, Livia and the others went to the Shoasuki residence through the teleportation door left by Wuming. In the living room of the Shoasuki residence, Wuming, Rin Tasaka, and Livia were sitting around a table. On the table was the parchment map that Rin Tasaka had used to detect the ley lines. The mirror world is deep underground, this is a bit troublesome. Livia said. Because it was underground, the mirror world must also be underground. In other words, the mirror world was full of soil, and in order to enter the mirror world, one must be in the corresponding position. In other words, if Wuming wanted to enter the mirror world, he must open up a sufficient space in the underground mirror world. I want to directly dig down and then enter the mirror world to retrieve the rank cards. Wuming waved his hand and said casually. Stop your weird thoughts. If you do that, the mirror world will only be a space filled with soil. Rin Tasaka said irritably. First, you have to dig a tunnel and then open up an underground space at the target location. Rin Tasaka then rubbed his chin and analyzed. Then, I'll call it Luvia Salinta Eiderfelt. Luvia pointed at herself arrogantly. Indeed, for a nouveau riche like you, opening up an underground space is nothing. Rin Tasaka looked at Luvia with jealousy. There was no helping it. She was rich. Then, Wuming, have you really decided to enter the mirror world alone? Rin Tasaka and Luvia looked at Wuming. Chapter 263. Wuming looked at Rin Enben in surprise. It can't be helped. This is the best choice for now. Rin Enben sighed. You're right. Then I wish you good luck. Trust me. Even if I die, I won't really die. My real body isn't here. You have to survive. Luvia looked at Wuming. I remember Mayo's birthday is coming up. When we celebrate with her, I don't think Mayu will be happy without you as her brother. During Mayo's stay at Luvia's house, Luvia accidentally found out about Mayo's birthday because she wanted to know more about Mayu and Wuming's past. I remember Mayu happily telling me that you celebrated her first birthday with her. The smile on her face was the brightest I've ever seen. You're right. It's almost July 20th, Wuming closed his eyes and recalled the 5 years he spent with Mayu. Every time Mayo's birthday came up, Wuming would throw a fun party for Mayu. Including Mayu, there were only 3 people. Wuming still remembered that Amiya Kiritsugu's death made Shiro Amiya sad for a few days. At the time, it was Mayo's birthday. Shiro Amiya forced a smile and celebrated Mayo's birthday with Wuming. In the end, Mayu saw Shiro Amiya's sadness and made a fool of herself. At the time, Mayo's emotions weren't very rich. But now, Mayu had changed a lot. However, because Wuming was also a problematic child, Mayo's emotions were still not at the level of a normal person even after a few years of school life. However, Wuming was lucky to have Renbachian. If he hadn't met Mayu, if only Shiro Amiya was left to take care of Mayu after Amiya Kiritsugu's death, with Shiro Amiya's personality and Amiya Kiritsugu's teachings, perhaps Shiro Amiya would take care of Mayu like a prop. Well, Wuming felt that Shiro Amiya might not listen to Kiritsugu and take care of Mayu like a sister. That's all for now. Wuming opened his eyes. I'll leave the plan to build the channel to you guys. After speaking, Wuming left as if he didn't care about anything else. It's rare to have time to rest. Let Mayu rest more and enjoy this birthday. Soon, it was July 20th, which was right next to the summer vacation. During this period of time, Mayu and the others' primary school life was still as usual. They continued to play and learn every day. However, it seemed that they noticed the slight change in Wuming's and Mayo's mood. Elia and little Blackie didn't stay in their own house. Instead, they often stayed in Shuayu's house. This made Sela complain to Wuming often. However, Alice Field smiled happily and said, "Isn't that great? Mr. Wuming is a good person." On the other hand, Rin Enben and Luvia were wholeheartedly focused on building the channel. It was worth mentioning that perhaps because they were both Holy Grails, Mayu and Elia's birthdays were actually on the same day. As for little Blackie, who was Elia's other half, it was naturally the same birthday as them. This became a big party for the 3 of them to celebrate their birthdays at the same time. As Winterwood City wasn't far from the seaside, Wuming, Mayu, Elia, little Blackie, and the others discussed celebrating their birthdays by the seaside. It was worth mentioning that the quartet who often played with Elia and the others also agreed to celebrate their birthdays by the seaside. But Wuming felt that they were mainly going to the seaside to play. By the seaside, Wuming wore swimming trunks and revealed his muscular upper body. Looking at the few of them who had already started playing around, Wuming turned to Mayu beside him. "Mayu, why aren't you playing with your friends?" Mayu was wearing a fresh and cute swimsuit. Because she wasn't used to it, her face was slightly red. I want to play with Brother Wuming. It's good that you have such intentions. It's rare for you to have playmates, so hurry up and go play." Wuming nudged Mayu, indicating for Mayu to go over. Mayu looked at Elia and the others who were waving at her, then looked at Wuming and nodded with a smile. Okay, then brother Wuming, see you later. With that, Mayu ran toward Elia. As expected, Mayu has become very close to a normal person. Wuming crossed his arms and nodded. I really couldn't tell that Lord Hyunryong is actually a siscon. A serious female voice came from behind Wuming. Wuming narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look behind him. What? I'm not allowed to be a siscon. I have a full understanding of modern human society. Wuming looked at Bazette with displeasure. Fully understanding modern society doesn't mean one has to be a siscon. This was something that Bazette didn't dare to say. No, I'm just casually saying it. Please don't take it to heart. At this moment, Bazette was dragging a large amount of luggage behind him. Heh. If you're a servant, then do your job well. Do you still want tips? Wuming said with a smile. However, now Wuming's smile was slightly broken. Yes, master. Bazette had an involuntary expression and bowed to Wuming. Now, Wuming was Bazette's master, and Bazette was a servant under Wuming. A few days after Bazette attacked Livia's house, Wuming went to Zelika's office and asked for a list of people. Then, Wuming visited these people one by one in a friendly manner overnight. After they promised with tears in their eyes, Wuming left after teaching them a lesson. Oh, right, these people also gifted Wuming a large amount of rare magic materials. Since they were gifted with great kindness, how could Wuming not accept it? And the reason why Bazette became like this was because of Livia. Livia's family, the Eiderfelts, used the destruction of the mansion as an excuse to pressure these forces. This caused these forces that were robbed clean by Wuming to be unable to explain themselves and could only sell Bazette. All of his credit cards were frozen, and all travel expenses were cancelled. This was Bazette who was scammed by the higher-ups. Could it only be described as evil capitalism? Because Bazette lived in the Shuayu house before the order was issued, Wuming used the threat of eating my food, living in my house, using my money, to force Bazette to work in Wuming's house. Just like this, the penniless Bazette had no choice but to become Wuming's servant. And he was a servant who didn't have a salary and only received tips. It couldn't be helped. After all, Bazette was in debt to begin with. Then, go put down your luggage. We'll be spending the night here. As he spoke, Wuming took out a large amount of money. Take this money and use it as your activity fund. If there's any left, use it as your travel expenses. Yes, master, I'll go now. Bazette took the money. Although his facial expression didn't change much, his somewhat lively tone betrayed Bazette's unstable heart. Although Wuming's Shuayu house's wealth couldn't be compared to the long-established Eiderfelt's family, but in Winterwood City, it was still considered a big local. Naturally, it had this small amount of money. Wuming laid down on the beach chair that was already set up, basking in the sun with a face full of enjoyment. Sure enough, when it's time to enjoy, enjoy. Summer vacation is the best. Chapter 264. In the end, Wuming didn't get to enjoy the sunlight for long before Little Black pulled him over. Big brother, it's rare for you to come to the beach. Don't just lie there. Come and play in the water. Yes, I know. Just like that, Wuming was pulled over by Little Black and they played a game of beach volleyball. Wuming, Little Black, Mayu, Moriyama Nanakuru were in one group. Ilya, Yujienza Ryuko, Kurihara Tarika, and Gue Mimi were in the other group. Of course, this was the result of drawing lots. Although Ilya was a bit angry that she couldn't be in the same group as Wuming and was even mocked by Little Black, Ilya still tried her best to play beach volleyball. Although the result was that Wuming's group won. After that, Kurihara Tarika gritted her teeth and tried to persuade her. Alright, it's just a game anyway. Be happy. Today is your birthday, Ilya. That's right. Moriyama Nanakuru agreed. Be happy, Ilya-chan, the gentle Gue Mimi also tried to persuade her. Although Kurihara Tarika and the others said so, Ilya was still a bit unwilling. I originally wanted to be in the same group as Big Brother. Not to mention that I couldn't be in the same group as Big Brother, I was even mocked by Little Black. After Wuming's group won, Little Black hugged Wuming and kissed him. Although I can't deny that Little Black is excited, I really can't accept it. Ilya looked at Little Black and Wuming who were playing with each other. She was very disappointed. Tarika looked at Ilya awkwardly. Brother complex is really scary. Speaking of brothers, Tarika thought of Ilya's brother, Shiro Amiya. Speaking of which, why didn't Ilya's brother come? My brother seemed to have said, it's not good for me to go to a birthday party full of little girls. Besides, Mr. Wuming will also go back, and I still have work to do in school. My brother used this reason to refuse to come to the beach. Oh, Ilya is really calm. I remember that Ilya seemed to like her brother in the past. Why did she change to like Mayo's brother now? Nanao Moriyama narrowed her eyes and said in a strange tone. You, what are you talking about? How could I like Big Brother? It could only be said that Ilya was still a child and did not know how to hide it at all. Kurihara Kibana and the others could tell at a glance. I don't think it's a good idea to interrogate Ilya like that, Kurihara Tora said, a little embarrassed. Yes. Gue Mimi, the lowly with a weak sense of existence, also nodded. By the way, aren't you guys interested? Mayu likes her brother a lot. Does Ilya want to steal Mayo's true love and act out a sad love story with Mayo's brother? Nanao Moriyama's words attracted Kurihara Tora's attention, and even Gue Mimi was a little moved. After all, children of this age were especially curious, and it was inevitable for them to have wild imaginations, including Ilya. Love story. Steal Big Brother from Mayu. How is that possible, Nakuri-chan? Stop talking nonsense. Ilya was at a loss and shouted in panic. Does Ilya want Brother Wuming? This was Mayu, who was worried about Ilya's situation and left Wuming and Little Black's team to visit Ilya. Mayu. What are you talking about? I didn't mean that. Now, encountering the person she was talking about, Ilya was a little embarrassed at this moment. If it's Ilya, then it's not impossible. I can share Brother Wuming with you. Mayu considered for a moment and said as if she had made up her mind. Oh. What a surprise, Mayu-chan. He actually wants to share Big Brother Wuming with Ilya. Ilya's little friends were all astonished. What? Did I miss something? This was Yujienza Ryuko, who had just returned from swimming in the sea after playing beach volleyball. There's nothing. Ilya pulled Mayu and ran away. Did I miss something? Yujienza Ryuko looked at Kurihara Tora and others innocently. Bang! Kurihara Tora punched Yujienza Ryuko's head. Yujienza Ryuko's eyes instantly turned into mosquito smoke, and then he instantly fell to the ground. Really, don't come and make trouble. In the distance, Ilya, who was pulling Mayu and running away, stopped at a large rock and gasped for breath. Ilya? Mayu didn't understand why Ilya pulled her and ran away. She tilted her head and looked at Ilya. Ah. That. Tora and others were just joking, ahahaha. Ilya laughed awkwardly. But Mayu still had a puzzled expression. Because it's a little embarrassing. Although I like Big Brother, he's Mayo's big brother after all. Moreover, I liked my own big brother before, so this makes me seem a little unladylike. No. I didn't say that. Ilya explained in a panic. Mayu looked behind Ilya. Little Black walked out from behind the rock. Really, Ilya, do you have to be so timid? If you love, say it out loud. Little Black looked at Ilya speechlessly. Don't tell me you didn't. Little Black interrupted Ilya's words. Don't try to lie. I was one with you not long ago. I can say that I know everything that you know and think. Little Black was like a general that made Ilya speechless. Mayu looked at Ilya, who lowered her head and was even more puzzled. That's because Big Brother helped you many times in battle. He even helped you when you were in danger. However, because of this, you gradually fell in love with Big Brother, Little Black continued. This isn't something that's difficult to talk about. After all, it's very easy to conquer a person in such a situation. Ilya, we're still children. We might not have a clear understanding of things like love. You don't have to be so afraid and feel inferior just because you fell in love with Big Brother. I'm sorry, Mayu. Ilya lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at Mayu. However, Mayu only shook her head and held Mayu's hand. I understand Ilya's feelings very well. I remember the first time I met Brother Wuming. Wuming used his warm and powerful arms to save me. From that moment onwards, I felt that I couldn't leave Brother Wuming. Mayu recalled how Wuming had saved her in Frank's house. Mayu revealed a smile that Ilya and Little Black had never seen before. Seriously, what's wrong with you guys? Why aren't you guys here yet? Are you guys chatting about something interesting? At this moment, Wuming walked out from the other side of the rock. Huh? Why is Big Brother here? Ilya changed the topic in a panic. Bazette brought watermelons. I wanted Little Black to call you guys over to eat. I didn't expect to be delayed for so long. Wuming pointed at the watermelons placed on the beach and Yu Jianzi and the others who had already started to enjoy them. I'm sorry, Big Brother. I forgot about this because we were talking about something interesting. Little Black stuck out his tongue in embarrassment. That's nothing. I thought something had happened. Alright, let's go eat the watermelons. Yes. Chapter 265. Time passed quickly while everyone was playing by the beach. By the time everyone reacted, it was almost late. Okay, everyone go to the house over there. Let's start the birthday party. Yes, the temperature at night by the sea in summer generally dropped a little, which added a trace of relief to the summer heat. As the sun gradually set and the moon slowly rose, Wuming and the others gathered at the dining table. There were countless delicacies on the table. Although they were not made by Wuming, the taste was top-notch. After all, this was made by the chef that Wuming spent a lot of money to hire. In the center of the table was a cake with ice cream and ice. It made people feel refreshed just by looking at it. What a sumptuous table of food. Ilya smiled happily. The changes in her mood caused by what happened during the day had almost recovered at this moment. Of course. This is my shop. Yu Jianzi's face was full of pride. That's right. By the way, because this shop was the most popular one around, Wuming also chose this shop. When they found out that this shop was the property of Yu Jianzi's family, Ilya and the others were quite surprised. By the way, the chef was hired by Wuming. In short, Yu Jianzi provided the shop, and the delicacies were provided by others. Although Yu Jianzi's father was a little unwilling at first, when Wuming paid enough money, they happily agreed. Wuming couldn't help but sigh at the power of money again. Wuming remembered that Luvia was able to make Bazette's higher-ups compromise. Well, even if Bazette's higher-ups didn't give in, Wuming wouldn't let Bazette go back. Not afraid of death, not afraid of pain, beautiful appearance, vigorous skills, and the power to create the backlight sword. She would do whatever the higher-ups told her to do. She was extremely obedient, pure, and so on. In Wuming's view, Bazette was simply a perfect servant. How could he let her go? Ahem, back to the topic. Before starting the meal, Wuming took out the birthday gifts prepared for the three of them. 3 football-sized boxes were tied with pink, blue, and red bows respectively. Thank you, Big Brother, Brother Wuming. The three of them appeared to be a little emotional at this moment. Hey, Big Brother, can I open it now? Little Black looked at Wuming expectantly. Of course you can. You can all open it now. After all, it was prepared for you. Wuming waved his hand, indicating that Xiao He and the others could open it. The three of them couldn't wait to open the packaging and take out the contents of the box. There were 3 gift boxes that were slightly larger than the size of a palm. However, based on their exquisite appearance, they must be very valuable. I personally wrapped these 3 boxes, and the gifts inside were prepared by me without anyone else's permission. Open them and take a look. Big brother, did you make it yourself? Ilya glanced at Wu Ming and carefully opened the gift box. What entered Ilya's eyes was an exquisite pendant necklace. Naturally, Xiao He and Meiyou's gifts were also pendant necklaces. The most important places on the 3 necklaces were decorated with beautiful gems. However, Ilya's pendant was mainly pink, Meiyou's pendant was mainly blue, and Xiao He's pendant was mainly red. The gems were also the same. Wow, so beautiful. Kurihara Norika said somewhat exaggeratedly from across the table. It's really beautiful. The quiet lowly Gue Mimi said with an envious expression. I can only say that as expected of a member of a large family, this gift is very thoughtful. Moriyama Nantorai nodded. Although Wu Ming didn't stay in Winterwood City for a long time, Wu Ming used some legal methods to create a Shitsuki family in Winterwood City. To the outside world, it was announced that the Shitsuki residents had moved to Winterwood City. Many people knew about this, so Moriyama Nantorai wasn't worried about this matter. It's not for eating. Bad review, bad review. Bang! Kurihara Norika instantly stepped on Yujienza Ryuko under the table. You idiot, even if you're joking, you have to look at the atmosphere. After Ilya, Meiyou, and Xiao He took out the necklaces, they were all attracted by the beautiful necklaces. However, Xiao He's eyes turned as she thought of something and looked at Wu Ming. Big brother, I want you to put it on for me, okay? Ah. Xiao He is too cunning, I want it too. Ilya didn't want to be outdone and said. Wu Ming looked at Meiyou, who also had an expectant expression, and then agreed. Okay, line up, one by one. After taking the necklace from Xiao He's hand, Wu Ming wrapped it around Xiao He's neck and easily put it on. I love you the most, big brother. Xiao He instantly kissed Wu Ming's cheek and shouted happily. Ah! Xiao He, what are you doing? Ilya said in a panic. This is my thank you gift for big brother. You can do the same. After all, no one said that you can't do this. Xiao He looked at Ilya provocatively and smiled at her. Humph. Ilya walked in front of Wu Ming and handed the necklace to Wu Ming. Then, when Ilya was hesitating whether to kiss Wu Ming or not, Wu Ming put on Ilya's necklace for her. He left Ilya with a regretful look. Finally, it was Meiyou's turn. Brother Wu Ming. Meiyou looked at Wu Ming with a red face. Clearly, she was also wondering if she could be like Xiao He. Why are you hesitating about this? As long as Meiyou grows up healthily and happily, it will be the greatest thank you gift for me. With that, Wu Ming put on the necklace for Meiyou. Thank you, brother Wu Ming, for always being with me. With that, Meiyou gently approached Wu Ming's cheek and kissed Wu Ming's cheek. You even did it for Meiyou. Ilya lay on the ground with a defeated expression. Wu Ming smiled and patted Meiyou's head. This formed the warmest scene between siblings in this banquet. It must be said that after the 3 of them put on the necklace, there was a considerable change. They were originally beautiful people. When they were matched with beautiful accessories, it was no longer 1 + 1 = 2. Instead, it was an even greater number. The 3 of them are so beautiful. I must say that Meiyou's big brother matched them quite well. I think they're very beautiful. Ilya, Meiyou, and Xiao He. As expected, food is a better gift. Emichem. Bam. Shut up. Don't make such jokes again. Ha 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 ha. Accompanied by everyone's laughter, they started this sumptuous banquet. Wu Ming looked at Meiyou, who was laughing happily, and smiled as well. This smile was especially warm. Chapter 266. Although the beach where Wuming and the others were at was very close to Winterwood City, they still stayed in a hotel by the sea that night. After all, it was a birthday party, and Wuming certainly couldn't let the guests run around after the party. Therefore, Wuming, who had a small fortune, booked the entire hotel for everyone to play and stay. The next day, Wuming booked a car and sent everyone home. In the afternoon, Wuming went to Luvia's house and asked about the establishment of the underground passage. Because we are only responsible for supporting you, the passage is almost completed. Originally, Luvia wanted to build a battle fortress. At the very least, she could arrange the terrain in advance when she fought against the Mirror World servants transformed by cards. After all, the Mirror World was just a reflection of this world. Except for the fact that there were no people and the color of the environment was slightly different, it was just like the real world. So soon. I thought we would have to wait a few more days. Wuming said with some surprise. We've dismantled all the places that were originally designed as traps, and simply built an underground tunnel that can withstand high impact. If that's all, of course, it can be completed quickly. Rin and Osaka stroked her twin ponytails and explained to Wuming, then asked. By the way, when did you decide to retrieve the card, so we can be prepared? Yes, even if we don't go into the mirror world with you, we still have to be prepared. This card that has been absorbing for nearly 2 months may evolve into something we can't imagine. Even if you are a servant, Wuming, you can't be careless. Counting from the first job rank card, from Wuming's departure to Little Black's separation from Ilya's body, Bazette's attack on Luvia's family, and Luvia's secret relationship with Rin Enbin, Mio, Ilya, and Little Black's birthdays were almost 2 months away. In the worst-case scenario, this class card was a monster that had been absorbing ley line magic for 2 months. It had to be said that Rin and Osaka and Luvia were very thoughtful. When Wuming dealt with the most difficult berserker, it took almost a whole day. Although Hercules was strengthened by the black mud and Wuming was limited by the body of a servant, it was enough to see how difficult it was to deal with a card transformed into a servant. Even if the 9th card was Assassin, after absorbing the magic power of the Earth Vein for nearly 2 months, its power would become extraordinary. In short, this class card was very difficult to deal with. Wuming thought for a moment, then looked at Rin and Osaka and Luvia. Let's do it tomorrow. Rin and Luvia looked at each other, then nodded to Wuming. After returning to the Shuasuki house, Wuming saw Meiyu waiting for him as soon as he entered the door. Welcome back, brother Wuming. Meiyu smiled and looked straight at Wuming. Wuming froze for a moment, then walked in front of Meiyu and touched her head. I'm back, my lovely sister, Meiyu. Looking at Meiyu's face, Wuming felt very relieved. Brother Wuming, I made dinner, let's eat together. Although Wuming often cooked at home, it didn't mean that Meiyu didn't know how to cook. On the contrary, Meiyu's cooking skills could be said to be deeply Wuming's inheritance. If Meiyu worked as a chef in a restaurant, then the restaurant would definitely make a lot of money. Of course, Wuming certainly wouldn't allow it. A magical girl becoming a chef. Are you kidding me? Oh, then I must taste it well. I haven't eaten much during this time. The servant's body only needed magical power, Wuming usually ate out of habit. In the dining room of the Shuasuki house, Wuming tasted Meiyu's dishes. It's delicious. It seems that Meiyu will grow up to be an excellent and beautiful bride. Bride? Can I really become a bride? At the moment, Meiyu seemed a little uneasy. Wuming, who was very familiar with Meiyu, naturally knew what Meiyu was thinking. Don't worry, Meiyu, your brother will protect you for a lifetime. Modestly speaking, if my main body is here, even the suppression will have to give in to me. Although she didn't quite understand what suppression was, since Brother Wuming said it must be a powerful character. Meiyu thought. Brother Wuming has always been so powerful, and has always been so reliable. Looking at Wuming's rather proud expression, Meiyu, who was originally a little depressed, was also amused by Wuming. That's why Meiyu just needs to be happy. Otherwise, as her older brother, I would be neglecting my duty. Looking at the short black hair that covered her blonde hair because of the use of magic, and then looking at Wuming's pale golden pupils and Wuming's handsome face that didn't want to live for a long time, Mayo's beautiful face showed a beautiful smile. Now I feel that it's really a miracle to be able to be brother Wuming's sister. Huh? Why do you suddenly say that? Wuming was somewhat puzzled. Nothing, Mayu looked at Wuming and continued to smile. Although he was still somewhat puzzled, but, I'm also very happy, Mayu, to be able to be your sister, to be your brother. Although it seemed like nothing major happened between the two, Wuming knew that his relationship with Mayu had improved. The next night, Wuming, Mayu, Blackie, Ilya, Rin Enbin, and Luvia all gathered on the beach. Because Luvia and Rin Enbin detected that the location of the 9th class card was under the beach near the sea, Luvia directly let her construction team rent the nearby beach for construction. When Wuming, Mayu, and the others held a birthday party together, Wuming chose another beach, so Wuming and the others didn't let the construction dampen their spirits. By the way, Luvia's house that was destroyed by Bazette had already been repaired. Let's go, this should be the final battle, probably. Rin Enbin's final words at the end made the originally stressful atmosphere relax a little. Rin is right, after all, there are already 2 extra cards, we can't rule out the possibility of other cards. Luvia explained. Don't worry, this is indeed the final battle. After this battle, I will tell you the origin of the class card, as well as the secrets of me and Mayu. We have been waiting for this for a long time, big brother, when the time comes, you have to tell me properly. Blackie hugged Wuming's arm and acted coquettishly. Could it be that everyone already knows that brother Wuming and I are hiding something from you? Mayu looked at everyone in disbelief, as if they should have known. After all, we have lived together for such a long time, naturally, we have already noticed that big brother and Mayu are hiding something. Ilya touched her head a little shyly. Sorry, Ilya. Mayu looked at Ilya a little apologetically. It's okay, Mayu, everyone has things that they don't want to talk about. Ilya. Mayu looked at Ilya rather emotionally. If you don't catch up, we are going to leave. Blackie's voice came from afar. Ilya and Mayu came back to their senses and realized that they were the only ones left. Wait for us. Chapter 267. Starting from the ground, there was a spiral staircase that led to the bottom. Tat-tat-a-dash. Wuming and the others arrived at the bottom of the staircase. After arriving at the bottom, Wuming realized that the space at the bottom was extremely large. The spiral staircase was just a passageway. This is the battle location we designed. Rin Enbin spoke first. Silent Wonder surveyed the area in front of him. It was a semicircular cave with a diameter of nearly 100 meters. At a glance, there was nothing in the way of obstructions. This was an area that was created to facilitate Silent Wonder's battle. The walls were made of high-density alloy with a large number of magic runes engraved on them. They were mainly used to support the ceiling and prevent the cave from collapsing during battle. Since they had considered the possibility of a battle, they didn't use high-grade flooring. It was just a simple metal plate. How is it? It should be enough for your battle, right? Luvia asked Wuming. It's enough, but it'll take a while. Looking at Wuming, who was not in a hurry, everyone was puzzled. Is there anyone else coming? It's almost midnight. Rin Enbin said. Although they could enter the mirror world at a time other than midnight, it was more stable to enter at midnight. Coming. After Wuming said that, there was the sound of hurried running. A figure rushed down the spiral staircase and jumped in front of Wuming. I'm not late, am I? Bazette? Why are you here? Everyone was shocked. That's right, the person who came was Bazette in a men's suit. Is this your idea, Wuming? Luvia looked at Wuming in surprise. Yes. After all, Bazette's combat power is not to be underestimated. With her and you guys here, I can rest assured. For some reason, Wuming felt uneasy. Therefore, Wuming called Bazette, who was a servant, over. Is she really okay? After all, she was our enemy not long ago. Rin Enbin whispered into Wu Ming's ear. Don't worry. Since I've already become Master's servant, I'll definitely abide by the rules. Bazette vowed solemnly, speaking with a rather imposing manner. Otherwise, Master will deduct my tips again. I don't have a salary to begin with, so I can only rely on tips to get the funds to go home. Today, I almost blew up the kitchen. Not only did I not get my tips, but my working hours were also extended. In the end, I was even locked up to reflect on myself. Bazette said gloomily. This was also the reason why Bazette didn't appear when Mei Yu and Wu Ming were having dinner together. Aha! Aha! This is really hard work. Ilya laughed awkwardly. All in all, with Bazette here, your safety can be assured. Even if I have to risk my life, I will definitely protect your lives and get the tip. If you want to hurt you, you'll have to step over my life first. Bazette's face was full of, I'm burning up. I think you're just doing it for the tip. Ilya looked at the burning Bazette speechlessly. Looking at the group that wasn't nervous at all, Wu Ming smiled. Brother Wu Ming. At this moment, Mei Yu walked in front of Wu Ming. You must come back safely. Wu Ming looked at Mei Yu's eyes. The determination and trust in her eyes were conveyed to Wu Ming. Ah, I definitely will. I haven't eaten enough of the food Mei Yu cooked for me. Yo, FGLA stood up. Then, I'll be right back. Wu Ming walked to the center of the empty space underground and waved his hand with a smile. Teleportation begins. With Colossus' voice, the magic circle wrapped Wu Ming, and Wu Ming disappeared. Wu Ming opened his eyes that were closed because of the white light at the moment of teleportation. He was moving toward the mirror world, surrounded by a strange space. A virtual space. Wu Ming said. This was a space that existed on the reverse side of the world, and the mirror world was also on the reverse side of the world, a space that was rooted above the virtual space. At this time, Wu Ming heard a song, but the sound was quite sad. This is. The moment Wu Ming heard the song, he felt that his body's function had declined. According to the attributes of a servant, all 6 attributes had declined by 1 level. His strength, durability, and agility, which were originally grade C, had all been reduced to grade D. Other than his mana, which was still grade X, even his luck and noble phantasm had been reduced by a grade, from grade A and A+ to grade B and B+ respectively. Wu Ming looked at a certain place through mana perception. Unfortunately, Wu Ming only vaguely saw a figure with big horns before he was teleported away. Wu Ming appeared in the underground cave's mirror world. Just now, who was that? Wu Ming thought about the figure he saw just now. With just a song, Wu Ming's attributes were reduced. Although he was a servant, being able to reduce Wu Ming's attributes showed how powerful he was. If my main body was here, I wouldn't be afraid of that guy. Unfortunately, I'm still sleeping inside my origin. Wu Ming said regretfully. After all, regardless of whether it was an enemy or an unknown thing, Wu Ming was interested in that figure. However, things seem to be a little bad now. Wu Ming looked at the huge magic fog that was still spinning in the center of the cave, and a berserker's roar came from it. This is a little bad. After all, facing a powerful enemy, Wu Ming's attributes were reduced. No matter how one looked at it, Wu Ming was at a disadvantage. Such a huge magic fog that can be used as both a spear and a shield. How much magic did this guy absorb? Wu Ming frowned. Although it was still not as powerful as Wu Ming's magic, this magic fog was indeed quite large. I hope he wasn't stained by the strange black mud. While Wu Ming was talking, the card servant in the magic fog launched an attack. Swish! 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 5 or 6 iron whips formed by the magic fog viciously lashed at Wu Ming. Boom! The floor was smashed. Wu Ming jumped up, floated in the air, and then took out a silver holy sword from the golden ripples that appeared beside him. I'll accept the greeting gift. Now, It's my gift to you. Stars hidden in the world, holy sword that annihilates all evils, there is no need to cover your light anymore, shine. The broken holy sword turned into a silver dragon-shaped light beam and rushed toward the magic fog that was constantly spinning. Silver meteor. Chapter 268. A violent explosion appeared in front of Wuming, and a gust of wind engulfed Wuming. His clothes fluttered in the wind. The mana fog dispersed, but what entered Wuming's eyes was a huge shield. This sense of déjà vu really makes one feel somewhat helpless. This scene caused Wuming to recall the scene when he was fighting Romo. Back then, Wuming had also fired a beam of light, but it was blocked by Rama's Aegis shield. However, it wasn't the Aegis shield, but a shield that Wuming didn't recognize. A noble artifact. After all, only a relic could block Wuming's silver meteor. At this moment, the huge shield began to crack. Then, it shattered and turned into bits of black light before disappearing. After the shield shattered, the figure behind the shield was revealed. This figure was pitch black. Other than its blood-red eyes and the blue lines on its cheeks, the rest of its body was completely black. Let's call him Black Follower for now. It seemed that the Black Follower was furious because his shield was broken. He waved his hands, and countless black ripples appeared on the ground beside him. This move. Could it be? Wuming looked at this very familiar scene and felt a little excited for a moment. However, the Black Follower would not let go of any opportunity to kill the enemy. Countless swords, spears, swords, and halberds emerged from the black ripples. Black Follower turned his hand, and countless weapons were pointed at Wuming. The weapons that were summoned by Black Follower were all noble relics. Swish swish swish. Countless relics shot towards Wuming, but Wuming did not panic at all. He did not even try to dodge. Then, a series of explosions occurred at Wuming's location. Boom boom boom. After the explosion, smoke and dust covered the place where Wuming was standing. As expected, you are the hero king. Gilgamesh, my disciple. Wuming's voice came from the dust cloud. Black Follower was slightly stunned when he heard someone calling his name. When the dust settled, Wuming held a shield in his hand. It was the Aegis shield that Romo had used in the previous battle, the Aegis shield. Behind Wuming, the Manchala formation appeared. Then, Wuming put the shield back into the formation, and the formation disappeared. That's right, this was the materialization of the Sword of Salvation held by the last king, the Manchala formation, which was comparable to the Gate of Babylon. After successfully becoming the hero and becoming the last king, Wuming thought more than once that since the Sword of Salvation was the weapon of the last king, could Wuming, who had become the last king, use the Manchala formation and the countless god relics in it? The answer was yes. Wuming had successfully materialized the Sword of Salvation and formed the Manchala formation. He had also taken out the god relics in it and used them. Now, Wuming had turned the tables on Black Follower. But shouldn't you be with Angelica Ainsworth? Why are you here? That was right. Angelica, who fought Wuming in the parallel world, had undoubtedly used Gilgamesh's card. The Gate of Babylon wasn't something that anyone could use. Only Gilgamesh, the king of Babylon, could possess this precious artifact. Just when Wuming was thinking, Black Gilgamesh summoned countless relics from the black ripples again. Forget it. I'm the idiot who's talking to you. No matter what, you're just a force without consciousness now. As Wuming spoke, the Manchala formation appeared behind him again. Black Gil roared and shot countless relics at Wuming. Meanwhile, Wuming simply waved his hand and countless god relics shot at Black Gil. Bang! 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 Black Gil's relics collided with Wuming's god relics and the explosions cancelled each other out. Aw! Black Gil was enraged, perhaps seeing that the technique that he was proud of did not work. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. A black ripple appeared in Hegil's hand, and a strange weapon emerged from it. It was a weapon that looked more like a staff than a sword. Is that the Guile separation sword? Wuming recognized the weapon that was accompanied by a raging red hurricane as soon as it appeared. After all, Wuming had used it before and there was a weapon similar to the Guile separation sword in the Manchala formation. However, Wuming was not going to use the Guile separation sword from the alternate world. That was because, Xiao En. As Wuming commanded, countless chains shot out from the golden ripples behind Wuming. Their target was Black Gil, who was holding the Guile separation sword. Black Gil seemed to have sensed the danger as well. He immediately summoned the black magical mist around him to block the chains and set up many shield relics in the magical mist. However, how could the improved version of Enkidu, which had both offense and defense, be blocked by the magical mist? Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The golden chains pierced through the magical mist, bypassed the shields, and instantly wrapped around Black Gil. The red hurricane on the Guile separation sword that Black Gil was holding disappeared, and the 3 rotating blades stopped spinning. Even the magical mist around Black Gil disappeared. This was the powerful power of the Silent Earth Lock, Enkidu, the binding energy. The magic fog had been forced back into Hejil's body. The magic fog was formed by a class card, so it was natural for it to leak out when there was too much magic in the body. Naturally, it could be taken back. Black Gil roared furiously when he felt that he was restricted. Sure enough, it's just a force. If he's really here, how could he be so easily restrained by Enkidu? Wuming shook his head and crossed his arms in regret. Checkmate. Wuming flew down from the sky and walked to the restrained Black Gil. Wuming extended his hand and infused it with magical power. He instantly inserted it into Black Gil's heart and grabbed a card. It was the class card of the Archer class card. However, Wuming discovered a trace of a problem. He could not take out a class card. Hejil, who had been furious, instantly changed his expression. He chuckled as if his plan had worked. Then, Wuming felt that his hand was corroding. Releasing the class card, Wuming instantly pulled his hand out. Looking at his right hand that was still emitting black smoke, Wuming could not help but look at Black Gil's heart. I opened a big hole there, and there was some black substance inside the hole. However, the black substance was different from the black substance on Black Gil's surface. It was the black mud that had the aura of the Dragon of Origin. TSK. Trouble. Chapter 269. Outside the mirror world, Rin and Osaka and Luvia closed their eyes and crossed their arms as they waited quietly. Bazette, on the other hand, stood in the same spot without moving an inch. Meiyu, on the other hand, looked worriedly at the place where Wuming disappeared. As for Ilya, why hasn't Big Brother come out yet? Ilya kept walking and started complaining. Little Black, who was sitting on the steps at the entrance, looked at Ilya with disdain. That's a guy who has absorbed the Earth Vein's magic power for almost 2 months. Even if it's Big Brother, it'll be troublesome. Then, Little Black smiled and waved his hand. But, with Big Brother's strength, he'll definitely be able to deal with it. But, I'm very worried. I can't do anything about it, Ilya drooped her little head and said dejectedly. It's okay. It's normal for Ilya to be worried about Brother Wuming. You don't have to feel ashamed about it. Meiyu, who was looking at the spot where Wuming disappeared, walked up to Ilya and patted her little head. Huh. It seemed like Ilya had never been patted on the head by Meiyu before and was unable to get used to it. What's wrong? Ilya, did I go overboard? Meiyu had a worried look on her face. That's not it. It's just that I'm not used to it. Speaking of which, Meiyu seems to be very familiar with it. Ilya patted her head with a smile. This is because Brother Wuming often patted my head at home. I learned it unknowingly, Meiyu said embarrassedly as her cheeks reddened. Huh. Meiyu can enjoy Big Brother's patting every day. I'm so envious. Ilya heard and cried out enviously. Ilya, don't be like this. I'm so shy. Wuming pushed Ilya with a red face. And just as Ilya was about to say something, the space around her shattered. Kacha! A red hurricane shot out from the broken space. Huh? What is this? Ilya asked in surprise. Then, a pitch-black face appeared in the shattered space. Ah! What? What is this? Ilya was clearly shocked. Ilya! May you? Hurry back! Rin Enbin yelled anxiously. He's not someone you can deal with. Livia shouted. Bazette, on the other hand, was the first to rush over. Mayu stared blankly at Black Gil, who was not far away. She fell into an overwhelming silence. Mayu clearly knew that this enemy was Wuming's opponent in the mirror world. Since the enemy had broken through space and came out, then Wuming had already, Brother Wuming, ha! Bazette raised his fist, and Lune runes appeared on his fist. Bazette's strengthened fist heavily smashed into Black Gil's face. But, bang! Bazette was sent flying by the impact. He. Black Gil laughed with a twisted expression, and a dense black magic fog surrounded him. This is high-density magic fog. Bazette exclaimed in surprise. This scale is much greater than Saber's. Rin Enbin and Livia were also surprised. Ilya, let's go. Mayu, who was awakened by Bazette's attack, instantly pulled Ilya and flew toward Rin Enbin and Livia. Hurry! Ilya, you take me. Mayu, take Livia. Let's quickly retreat from here, Rin Enbin said. But, big brother, crack. Space shattered, and an exit that allowed Black Gil to pass through appeared. Black Gil laughed loudly. Whoosh, bang. A black arrow hit Black Gil, and the resulting explosion covered Black Gil's figure. Little Black. Ilya looked at Little Black. What are you doing? Hurry up and retreat. Little Black maintained his bow and arrow posture, and projected another bow and arrow. But, big brother, he's still. Ilya said worriedly. Big brother is very powerful. He'll be fine. On the other hand, if Big Brother comes out of the mirror world and finds out that we're dead, then Big Brother will be very sad. Ilya, let's retreat. At this moment, Mayu's voice came from beside Ilya. Mayu. Why? Ilya didn't understand why Mayu also chose to retreat and give up on Wuming. Brother Wuming and I have an agreement. Brother Wuming said that he will definitely return safely from the mirror world. I believe in Brother Wuming. Seeing Mayu's firm gaze, Ilya was dazed for a moment. Then, she smiled and nodded heavily. Okay, I understand. Let's go, Ruby. Wow. Wow. You're all pumped up. Whoosh. Boom. Blackie shot another arrow at Hegel. Black Gil was enraged by Little Black's behavior. Hurry up and come over. I'll cover you. Little Black, who was already at the entrance, naturally didn't need to take the lead. Thus, she needed to cover the others. Then, Ilya carried Rin Enbin while Mayu carried Livia. The two of them flew toward the entrance of the passage. Bazette, who originally wanted to continue attacking, also began to retreat after Rin Enbin said, the opponent has a noble artifact that can break through space. If you want to die, we won't stop you. It could only be said that Bazette was a little silly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Little Black shot a few more arrows at Black Gil. Bang! Boom! However, Black Gil's magical mist shattered all of Little Black's arrows. Black Gil roared. Black ripples appeared around him, and countless noble artifacts appeared. Aw! Black Gil roared again, and countless noble artifacts shot toward Little Black. Little Black, run! Ilya and the others had already arrived at the center of the passage, so they hurriedly called for Little Black, who was still fighting Black Gil and covering them, to retreat. Little Black jumped lightly and grabbed the handrail of the stairs in the passage. Boom 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 boom. Countless noble artifacts that lost their target bombarded the wall and the ceiling began to shake. Boom, boom, not good, Big Brother hasn't come out yet. Ilya exclaimed when she saw the underground cave began to collapse. It's too late. The collapse of the cave can only delay the black servant's footsteps. We must quickly leave the passage and return to the surface. Otherwise, it's likely that we will be killed in this passage. Rin Enbin said calmly. Ilya and the others who were no longer emotional looked at each other, nodded, and began to fly toward the surface. At this moment, a sound like an airplane taking off came from the underground. Chapter 270. This is. Rin and Osaka and the others were shocked. What they saw was a pitch-black aircraft that looked like a bird. If Wuming was here, he would definitely recognize this. Vimana, even in Gilgamesh's treasure trove, was one of Gilgamesh's favorite treasures. Vimla's entire body was made of gold and emeralds. It could roam freely in the sky and the sea. Not only was the Vimosa equipped with various high-level relics, but it was also equipped with ancient nuclear warheads. Most importantly, the Vimosa was powered by the sun crystal that used mercury as fuel to generate solar energy. It could move at a high speed, regardless of the laws of physics. Regardless of whether it was moving vertically, descending vertically, moving left and right, or flying diagonally, the Vimosa could do all of them. Moreover, it could ensure that the passengers were safe and sound. However, because the servant was in the dark state, all of Gilgamesh's noble phantoms, including Vimana, had turned black. The black bird moved towards the ground through the passageway, and all the stairs in the passageway were destroyed. Not good. Everyone, run. Rin Enbin shouted in panic. Even if Rin and Osaka hadn't said anything, even if Big Sister Rin didn't say anything, we would still leave. Ilya hugged Rin Enbin and flew out of the tunnel, crashing to the ground. Mayu, Luvia, Little Black, and Bazette also came out of the tunnel at the same time as Vimor flew out. Swish! Waymona flew up vertically like a giant bird. Soon after, the originally upright Vimona flattened out, and the pitch-black Gilgamesh sat steadily on the open-air seat of the Vimona. With a twisted laugh, he drove the Vimona away. Ah! Everyone who had escaped the calamity sat weakly on the ground. Ilya, Mayu, and Blackie looked at the collapsed tunnel with sorrow. They didn't say anything, only silence. Not good, that fellow is heading towards the city. Rin Tobasaka immediately recognized Vimona's movements and exclaimed in a panic. Let's hurry and stop him. Ilya stood up with a look of grief and indignation. Suddenly, a rather bored female voice sounded. I didn't expect the first-rate magician from the clock tower to be so useless, and you bunch of useless children. A silver-haired girl with golden eyes arrived in front of Rin Enbin and the others. Ms. Karen. Because Vimor seemed to be looking for something and didn't attack the city, Ilya and the others weren't in a hurry. The main point was that Karen, who seemed to be closely related to the Holy Church, had already used a spell to dispel and make people sleep. There were no longer any humans in the city. Rin and Osaka and Luvia both blushed when they realized this. It could be said that the two of them had failed in their duties for not preparing for this in advance. After a short conversation with the girl named Karen, Ilya and the others left the collapsed passage and temporarily found a place to rest, preparing to stop the Dark Gilgamesh. After Karen's explanation, everyone learned a lot of things, including the secrets of Wuming and Mayu, as well as what the Dark Gilgamesh was looking for. The Holy Grail. Sitting on a chair outside the small wooden house, Ilya said in confusion. After all, she was born to be the little Holy Grail. What are you talking about? The little Holy Grail is obviously me. Ilya, you can just be a primary school student. Little Black sat beside Ilya and comforted her, although the way he comforted her was a little unusual. Ahahaha, you're right. Thank you, Little Black. Ilya looked at Little Black with a face full of smiles. Humph. Little Black turned his head away proudly. Speaking of which, Mayu is suffering the most right now, right? Ilya looked at Mayu, who was staring at the moon in a daze. Yes, we don't know if Big Brother is dead or alive. Compared to Mayu, who is Big Brother's younger sister, the two of us are doing better. Of course, it didn't mean that Ilya and Little Black weren't worried about Wuming. It was just that Mayu, who had lived with Wuming for almost all of her life, must be feeling very uncomfortable now that she didn't know if her brother was dead or alive. Don't worry. Wuming is the great sage of the Uruk. He's a legendary fantasy breed that even Kenzaki couldn't destroy. How could he be killed so easily? Luvia's voice sounded. That's right. He's the teacher of the most ancient king. As the saying goes, the older you are, the wiser you are. If he dies so easily, it would be too degrading. Rin and Osaka's voice followed. Rin and Osaka and Luvia were standing behind Ilya and Little Black without them noticing. Ah! You scared me. Really, Sister Rin and Sister Luvia, why didn't you make any sound when you walked? Ilya was shocked. On the other hand, Little Black seemed to have noticed the two of them long ago and didn't show much panic. You're paying too much attention to Mayu. Look at Little Black and you're fine, Rin and Osaka complained. Is Mayu still worried about Wuming? Luvia looked at Mayu with some heartache. Although Mayu had only stayed in her house temporarily, Luvia had already treated Mayu as her younger sister. Big brother, are you really all right? Ilya's voice became gloomy once again when this topic was brought up. You just need to believe in him, Rin and Osaka said confidently. Although it seemed like Rin and Osaka and Luvia weren't worried about Wuming's safety, they actually believed in Wuming. They believed that he was a heroic spirit who had saved them. He was a high-level existence, but he was still their equal partner. At that moment, Mayu moved. Mayu turned around and jogged to the small wooden hut where everyone was gathered. That aircraft is making a big move. Mayu pointed at Vimona, who was moving at full speed toward Yuzong Mountain. It really is Yuzong Mountain. Let's go. Through the information provided by Karen and the judgment of Rin and Osaka and the others, everyone had more or less guessed that Dark Gilgamesh's target was the Great Holy Grail. Let's go. Yeah. Everyone replied in unison. Moments after everyone left, Karen and Bazette appeared. Aren't you going? Karen said rather uninterestedly. With him here, I'm not needed, Bazette said in confusion. Are you so sure that he's still alive? Not sure, but a fact. As if to prove Bazette's words, a ray of light suddenly appeared at the entrance of the collapsed tunnel. Seeing this ray of light, Karen and Bazette didn't say anything. After the ray of light disappeared, a meteor flew toward Yuzong Mountain. Damn it! I was careless and fell into his trap. Wuming said rather angrily. Just you wait. My cute disciple. Chapter 271. Near the foot of Yuanzong Mountain. Since Ilya and the others had already guessed the destination of the Dark Gilgamesh, they rested in a small wooden hut near Yuanzong Mountain. Therefore, they still neglected Vimona's full speed. As a result, Vimona arrived at Yuanzong Mountain ahead of time. Not far from Yuanzong Mountain. Ah! We should have set off for Yuanzong Mountain without stopping. Rin and Osaka complained. But if that's the case, Ilya and the others will also exhaust their stamina, Luvia said. I have a question. Even if we catch up with that airship, how are we going to stop it? Ilya raised her small hand. Sure enough, we only planned to stop the Dark Servant first, but we didn't plan how to defeat him. Ilya's small face drooped. We can use Dream Summon, install. Mayu said. Dream Summon, install. Ilya and the others were puzzled. With the help of a class card, transform yourself into a servant and obtain the power of a heroic spirit. That's how I came to be, Blackie said. But it seems that we're too late now. Ilya pointed at Vimona's light that descended, not knowing what to do. Vimona's ancient nuclear warhead was fired. Boom! A louder roar than before and a bright light that seemed to illuminate the world made Ilya and the others unable to open their eyes and temporarily lose their hearing. It couldn't be helped. Ilya and the others were not far from Yuanzhang Mountain. But fortunately, Ilya and the others didn't arrive at Yuanzhang Mountain ahead of time. Otherwise, they would have died without a complete corpse. Ah, my ears hurt. With the ruby's healing effect, Ilya quickly recovered. Mio was no exception. Rin and Osaka and Luvia had already fainted. As for Blackie, although he still felt uncomfortable, he was still a servant after all. Blackie's recovery was still very strong. By the way, Wu Ming had implanted the magic power generator he made for Xiao He in the form of an artificial magic circuit into Xiao He's body. In other words, Xiao He would no longer disappear due to exhaustion of magic power. What should we do? He must have gone to look for the Holy Grail. Ilya said anxiously. Ilya, don't worry. Mayo's voice suddenly choked up. Why are you crying, Mayu? Xiao He and Ilya asked in surprise. Mayu didn't answer Ilya and Little Black's question. Instead, she pointed at the meteor streaking across the sky. Ilya, who had ruby vision, and Xiao He, who had the body of a servant, saw the meteor clearly. It's Big Brother. Xiao He and Ilya's voices were filled with joy. Like Mayu, the two of them couldn't help but shed tears. Brother Wu Ming. That's great. Brother Wu Ming, you didn't lie to me. You really left the mirror world safely. Mayu was crying tears of joy as she spoke intermittently. Look! Big Brother has become a giant. Boom! The ancient nuclear warhead was detonated in Yuanzhang Mountain. Wu Ming looked at Mayu and others who were affected. Wu Ming instantly became furious. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me. I am the strongest, and I have all the victory in my hands. Be it human or demon, I am a person who can defeat all enemies, and I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giants with unparalleled divine power, please give me your aid. With the release of Phoenix's soul, Wu Ming gained speed beyond anything. With the release of Giant, Wu Ming's magical power formed a huge giant. Come down. Wu Ming instantly came to the head of Dark Gilgamesh, who had released the ancient nuclear warhead and was ready to accept the Great Holy Grail. He punched him hard and hammered him to the ground. Wu Ming's punch directly shattered Vimona, then turned into a little black light and disappeared. Ugh! Dark Gilgamesh's voice came from the huge golden palm. Gurgle gurgle. A large amount of black mud appeared under the giant's golden palm. Whoosh! Wu Ming's golden palm began to smoke, and the black mud began to corrode the golden palm. Wu Ming controlled the giant to raise its palm and stepped back slightly. Sure enough, this black mud has a strong restraining effect on me. Wu Ming frowned and looked at the black mud that kept pouring out of Dark Gilgamesh's body. What kind of strong restraining effect was this? For example, if the black mud was left on the ground, it wouldn't have any effect on the flowers and trees on the ground. However, as long as it came into contact with silent noise, the black mud would explode like a mixture of raw materials, full of corrosiveness. When Wu Ming found the black mud in Dark Gilgamesh's body in the mirror world, the black mud took the opportunity to attach to Enkidu. With Wu Ming's attribute, the black mud naturally corroded Enkidu. As Enkidu was naturally injured. Wu Ming hurriedly lifted Enkidu's Enkidu and released Dark Gilgamesh. As a result, the black mud, as if found a breakthrough point, emerged from Dark Gilgamesh's heart and surrounded Wu Ming. Because the distance was too close, Wu Ming was instantly swallowed by the black mud. After that, Dark Gilgamesh had lost his opponent, so he took out the Guili sword and broke through the mirror realm. As for Wu Ming, it could only be said that Wu Ming was indeed an existence that countered the black mud. Wu Ming released the aura of his origin dragon. Although the black mud swarmed toward him like maggots, the lack of replenishment allowed the black mud to be eliminated by the aura of his origin dragon. Although he still couldn't understand why the black mud produced from the origin dragon could restrain Wuming and why the aura of the origin dragon could restrain the black mud, Wuming knew that if he mixed his moves with the aura of the origin dragon, the black mud would be severely damaged. The next time my main body wakes up, I should be able to find out the truth, Wuming thought. The black mud began to change. Countless black mud began to gather together and slowly fuse with dark Gilgamesh as the center. Do you think I'll let you have your way? For victory, come to me quickly. Immortal Sun, please grant me a shining steed. Spirited steed, bring me the light will that symbolizes your master. The sun descended on Winterwood City, which was originally dark. Chapter 272. Neigh. Accompanied by a loud neigh, a handsome white horse descended from the sky with the sun on its back. Boom! That night, the entire Yuanzhang mountain disappeared. House of Einstein Barons. Sila was sitting at the dining table, eating in small bites, while the TV was playing the news. Because a meteorite suddenly fell on Yuanzhang mountain last night, it caused the natural trachea buried in Yuanzhang mountain to explode. It's terrible. A meteorite suddenly fell to the ground, and is there natural gas in Yuanzhang mountain? Sila thought. By the way, when did I fall asleep last night? I don't remember. Well, isn't this good? Sela must be so tired that she doesn't even know when she fell asleep. Alice Field sat next to Sela, eating and looking at Sela with a smile. Is that so? Yes, Sela was too tired, she accidentally fell asleep, she should go to bed early in the future, Lizette complained. You're the one who often falls asleep. Sela said helplessly. Ma, Alice Field smiled even more happily. By the way, Ma, do you really not need to call Ilya and the others? They had too much fun last night, let them have a good sleep, show all you residents. Mei Yu was sleeping in the room, while Wuming and Bazette were enjoying breakfast. Speaking of which, Master made quite a ruckus last night. Suddenly, Bazette opened his mouth. Last night, Wuming directly used double authority, and added a lot of his aura to summon the white horse, which directly melted Yuanzhang mountain. Including the great holy grail at the bottom of Yuanzhang mountain, and the black mud that formed the giant. Wuming's move directly burned the black mud. After using double authority, Wuming came to Mei Yu and the others in time to protect them. Wuming still remembered how miserably Ilya, Mei Yu, and Little Black had cried back then. Wuming comforted them for a while before they stopped crying. According to Xiao He, this was the price Wuming had to pay for deceiving them. This made Wuming smile bitterly. Moreover, Wuming also promised to take the three of them to the amusement park as compensation. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Wuming shook his head and came back to his senses. I don't want to either, but if we continue to let him do as he pleases, who knows what will happen. Then, a golden ripple appeared behind Wuming, and a young figure bound by Enkidu fell out. Plop! Ouch, teacher, can't you be gentler? I'm your favorite disciple. A childish voice entered Wuming's ears. Wuming looked at the figure. He had a small body, short golden hair, red eyes, and a naked body. If it wasn't for Enkidu covering his 3 points, Wuming definitely wouldn't have let him out. You still have the nerve to say that. You're clearly the hero king, yet you were corroded by a mere black mud. You should be thankful that I didn't send you back to the martyr's palace. Wumlis gave the figure a ruthless slap. That's right. That was the young hero king, and it was not the female version that Wuming knew. The hero king in this world was the male version. You can't blame me for this, teacher. The black mud has your breath, so I treated it as an ally. Young Gil looked at Wuming with a smile. It seemed like Wuming used a lot of force, but Wuming didn't use much force. He only gently knocked on young Gil's head. Young Gil naturally knew that Wuming wasn't this world's Hyunryong. However, due to the suppression, when Wuming came to a parallel world, the identity of that world's Wuming would be attached to Wuming. If one had to say something, it would be that the suppression left a seat for Wuming in every parallel world. As long as he came, that seat would be taken by Wuming, and Wuming would leave his mark in history. Young Gil knew Wuming because of this. Although Wuming had never seen the male version of young Gil, the female version of Gilgamesh that Wuming knew was almost exactly the same as the male version of young Gil. Even their temperaments and personalities were the same. Seriously, put on your clothes and come over for dinner. Wuming rubbed his forehead helplessly. Then, he took out a set of Uruk clothes from his relic and threw it to young Gil. The moment before the clothes touched young Gil, the heaven lock, Enkidu, was completely retracted by Wuming. Young Gil didn't care about Bazette's presence. He quickly put on his clothes and sat next to Wuming. I didn't expect you to save Enkidu in another world, sensei. Young Gil said with a smile. Although Wuming's Enkidu had changed a lot, as a close friend, young Gil could still recognize Enkidu. When Enkidu bound young Gil, Enkidu and young Gil communicated. Even if they were close friends in a parallel world, that wouldn't change. Naturally, the two of them had a happy conversation. It's not considered saving. At that time, I escaped from the Uruk with my tail between my legs, Wuming said casually. Ha ha ha. That's because sensei was restricted by the era. If you released your body, those gods would have surrendered to you a long time ago. Young Gil laughed as if he had heard a happy story. The gods all live in a higher dimension. In other words, they are already dead, Wuming said to young Gil as he drank a mouthful of porridge. Even if they died 10,000 times, it wouldn't be enough, sensei, young Gil said with a smile. The reason young Gil said this was naturally because of Enkidu. Enkidu, who was saved by Wuming, stimulated young Gil and reminded him of the dead Enkidu of this world. Children shouldn't always talk about death, Wuming flicked young Gil's forehead. Sigh. Sensei is so nice to children. I thought sensei had become a leprechaun. Young Gil patted his chest and sighed in relief. Your personality is still so bad. I really don't know what you learned from me, Wuming was a little speechless. I am the ancient king, the hero king, Gilgamesh. What I learned from sensei is naturally the basic principles of being a king. Don't pour dirty water on me. I don't remember teaching you to have a bad personality, Wuming refuted young Gil's words with a little disdain. Sigh. Why are you like this, sensei? After I went to the West, I also had a disciple there. She was much better than you, Wuming was talking about Artoria. Oh, someone who can be accepted as a disciple by sensei, then I have to get to know her. Young Gil's eyes were full of interesting charm. Bang! Wuming gave young Gil another flick. Well, this time it was a hard flick. Sensei, it hurts. Chapter 273. Wuming continued to eat as if nothing had happened. You've obviously become smaller, but you're still so uncute, just like the grown-up you. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I also hate the grown-up me. Wouldn't it be better to be gentler? Although young Gil said so, Wuming knew that whether it was young Gil or the grown-up Gilgamesh, their personalities were the same. It was just that young Gil was the two-faced type. He looked good, but in fact, he was full of evil interests. Now that I've destroyed the tactics of the Great Holy Grail, do you still want to pursue the Great Holy Grail? Wuming asked without turning his head. Young Gil took a bite of Wuming's food and showed an expression of enjoyment. Since the small Holy Grail is teachers, then I can only give it up. Young Gil smiled. That's suspicious. Wuming stared at young Gil and said suspiciously. You appeared in the young version and not the grown-up version because someone used your other class card, right? Wuming suddenly said. Well, as expected of teacher. That's right. Now, most of my noble artifacts are on the other side. Young Gil smiled helplessly. Because Angelica used the archer card of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh's other card, which was the current young Gil, could be considered as an incomplete version. That's good. I'm preparing to attack the side with your card. Do you want to make up the numbers? Wuming's mouth curved into a smile. Hey, since teacher has personally appeared, do you still need me? Young Gil had a leisurely look on his face as he ate. Well, that's true. Since that's the case, you can stay here and look after the house. Wuming smiled. Also, don't bully Beauty. Wuming smiled and said word by word. Yes, teacher. Young Gil smiled awkwardly. After dinner, Wuming asked young Gil to wash the dishes. It had to be said that although the young Gil and the adult Gilgamesh had the same personality, the young Gil was able to control his temper more easily. When Wuming said to wash the dishes, he eagerly went to do it. As for Bazette, he was sent out by Wuming to buy ingredients. Wuming held the omelette rice that he had specially left for Meiyu. Moreover, it was Wuming who had specially processed it with his magic to keep it warm. Then, Wuming knocked on Meiyu's door. Meiyu, are you awake? Wuming asked softly. However, there was no sound coming out from the room. Don't tell me she's still sleeping. Wuming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then, he opened Meiyu's door. When he opened the door, as expected, Meiyu was lying on her small bed. Because it was summer, Meiyu's body was only covered with a thin layer of blanket. Wuming put the omelette rice on the table beside Meiyu's bed, then gently sat on Meiyu's bed. Meiyu is really cute. Wuming laid in front of Meiyu and carefully looked at Meiyu's sleeping face. These few years, I feel like I'm raising a daughter. I really miss it. Fortunately, Meiyu's nature was not very active. She was a quiet Meiyu, lowly. Moreover, Meiyu was very sensible. This made Wuming feel very relaxed and happy about raising a daughter. As if she sensed that there was someone around her, Meiyu, who was sleeping soundly, moved and slowly opened her eyes. This is Brother Wuming. However, Meiyu seemed to be in a daze. She looked at Wuming in a daze. It seems that yesterday was really tiring for you. This is the first time I've seen Meiyu in such a daze. Wuming said with some heartache. After all, last night, Meiyu was not only worried about Wuming's life, but also had to stop a powerful and terrifying enemy. Her body and mind were always tense. It was understandable that she slept like this. Brother Wuming. Meiyu said in a daze. What's wrong, Meiyu? Wuming said in an exceptionally gentle tone. He could not wake up a person who was in a daze instantly. This would cause some damage to her mental state. It was better to wake her up slowly and gently. Ilya said. Everything in the dream is not real. Then. I want to. Brother Wuming. Wuming looked at Meiyu in confusion. What does Meiyu want to do with me? Wuming moved closer to Meiyu's ear and asked again. Wuming really did not hear the last sentence that Meiyu said. Kiss kiss. As she said this, Meiyu reached out and grabbed Wuming's neck. She instantly raised her head and kissed Wuming. Wuming widened his eyes. He really did not expect that Meiyu, who usually looked especially quiet, would be so daring at this moment. Could it be that she was the same as usual, but became extreme in her sleep because of the suppression of her daily life? Also, what did Ilya tell Meiyu? Fortunately, even if Meiyu became extreme, she was still Meiyu. Wuming only touched her slightly. After touching Wuming's lips lightly, Meiyu let go of Wuming. At this moment, Meiyu, who was in a daze from her sleep, was almost awake. Meiyu came back to her senses. She looked at Brother Wuming's face that was incomparably real. She recalled what she had done just now. Meiyu was stunned. I've prepared some food for you. Hurry up and eat, Wuming said gently. Wuming did not stop because of Meiyu's shallow kiss just now. Wuming adjusted himself and instantly recovered from his shock. It's just a kiss from a sister to a brother. It's no big deal. Wuming began to self-hypnotize himself, however, Meiyu was unable to let go of what had just happened. Woo. Woo woo. Wuming. Brother. Meiyu's entire head was as red as a monkey's butt. She stared blankly at Wuming and stuttered. Wuming looked at Meiyu, who was unable to look at his eyes due to her shyness. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he smiled. Hurry up and eat. I can feed you today, Wuming touched Meiyu's scalding hot little head and said gently. If one did not know the inside story, Meiyu's scalding hot little head might be mistaken as having a fever. Look, I made your favorite omelette rice for you. Wuming said as he picked up the bowl of omelette rice on the table beside Meiyu's bed. Meiyu was indeed a genius girl. After seeing that Wuming did not panic from the previous kiss, she calmed down a little. Do you need me to feed you? This is a rare opportunity, Wuming asked again. Okay. Meiyu's little head nodded. Wuming held the bowl of omelette rice in one hand and the spoon in the other hand. He gently scooped up a spoonful of omelette rice and sent it to Meiyu's mouth. Ah. Wuming said. Ah, Meiyu opened her little mouth and sucked on the spoon. How is it? Wuming asked with a smile. Meiyu tasted it carefully. It's delicious as always, brother Wuming. Meiyu still did not dare to look at Wuming. Her cheeks were slightly red as she said. Then let's continue. Okay. Chapter 274. Then, I'll go out first. Also, Meiyu's sleeping posture is very cute. Wuming finished speaking and left Meiyu's room with an empty tray. Meiyu lowered her head deeply, her cheeks red. Ruby, when did brother Wuming come in? Meiyu said shyly. Sapphire flew out from Meiyu's hair and spoke while floating. Lord Wuming came in for about a few minutes. Because he sat beside you to observe Lord Meiyu's sleeping posture, he woke Lord Meiyu up. Then, Lord Meiyu kissed, Meiyu instantly grabbed Sapphire and covered her mouth. It was Sapphire's hexagram. Probably. Lord Meiyu. It was obvious that Meiyu didn't cover Sapphire's mouth. Sapphire asked curiously. I don't think that Lord Meiyu is a pervert who kisses her brother. After all, you aren't blood-related siblings. Theoretically, you can, don't say any more, Sapphire. Meiyu blushed and shook Sapphire continuously. I understand, Lord Meiyu, then, Meiyu let go of Sapphire. Meiyu thought about everything she did with Wuming and the words she said to Wuming. She shook her head in confusion. The reason why Meiyu said that, since it's a dream, then everything isn't real, was because Meiyu had almost been forcefully kissed by Ilya. After that incident, Ilya told Meiyu that everything in the dream was fake. Children at this age like to dream, so it shouldn't be taken seriously. Ilya's goal was to let Meiyu understand that her actions back then weren't because she liked Wuming. However, the extremely smart Meiyu naturally knew that Ilya liked her brother. In the end, Meiyu misunderstood that Ilya meant that they could do anything in the dream. In the end, the aforementioned morning kiss happened. Woo-woo. After thinking about it carefully, Meiyu covered her face in shame and started sobbing. Wuming left Meiyu's room and went to the kitchen. When Wuming came in, young Gil, who was washing the dishes, raised his hand to greet him. Yo teacher, you're finally out. Young Gil finished washing the last dish and looked at Wuming. Wuming placed the plate beside young Gil's dish. I'll leave this to you too. You're feeding me personally, aren't you? That's nice. Even teacher hasn't fed me before. Young Gil obediently started washing the dishes again. That's because you're a man. Wuming waved his hand. Back then, he had fed the lowly Gil quite a lot. However, as they grew older, the lowly Gil became the cold and domineering big sister Gil. Therefore, Wuming's feeding privilege was revoked. Sigh, and you said that you don't like lowly. Teacher, seriously. Wuming narrowed his eyes. He could only say that he was indeed the male version of Gilgamesh. He was even more mischievous than the female version. You'd better be prepared. I'll introduce you to my friends later. Remember, don't cause trouble for me and don't talk nonsense. Yes, teacher, young Gil replied with a smile. I hope so. Wuming left the Shuayu residence. Before he left, Wuming handed a game to young Gil. This is a modified version of Grand Strategy that I've specially modified with magic power. Clear it before I come back, Wuming said. After all, he had to find something for young Gil to do. Otherwise, with his mischievous taste, it was inevitable that he would cause some trouble. Wuming arrived at the house of Einstein Barons and parked the car at the door. Wuming entered Ilya's house. Wuming walked to the door. Just as Wuming was about to knock on the door opened by itself. Ah, isn't that Mr. and Mrs. Xiao? Ah, isn't this Mr. Wuming? Are you here to look for Ilya and Blackie? They're still sleeping. It's so rare that the two of them are sleeping together. I've been looking at their sleeping faces for a long time. Mr. Wuming, you should go and take a look. Alice Phil was just about to go out and bumped into Wuming when she opened the door. What a coincidence, madam. Are you going out? Wuming said gracefully. Yes. After all, the meteorite last night caused the natural gas pipeline to explode, and Yuanzhong Mountain was blown away. I have to check it out. Looking at the smiling Alice Phil, Wuming felt awkward. The news report about the meteorite causing the natural gas pipeline to explode and collapse was naturally made up by Wuming and the others to cover up the ordinary people. However, Wuming didn't know that the disappearance of Yuanzhong Mountain was actually explained as the meteorite causing the natural gas pipeline to collapse. Last night, Wuming handed this matter over to Rin Enben, Luia, and the others. Then, he left with Ilya and the others. After all, the disappearance of Yuanzhong Mountain would definitely be discovered by the citizens. They had to deal with it as soon as possible. The result was, they're really unreliable, Wuming complained in his heart. About that, I'll take care of it in the near future. Wuming touched his head awkwardly. Ah la, that's great. Then, I'll take my leave first, Mr. Wuming. After saying that, Alice Phil left the Arinsbellen mansion. Wuming let out a long sigh of relief and then walked into the house. After greeting Sela, Wuming went directly to Ilya's room. According to Sela, Ilya and Little Black slept together last night, so Wuming only needed to go directly to Ilya's room. Ilya, Little Black, are you awake? Wuming knocked on the door and asked. After waiting for a few seconds, Wuming determined that the two were still asleep. I'm coming in. With that, Wuming pushed open the door to Ilya's room. What entered Wuming's eyes was Little Black and Ilya's intertwined sleeping posture. Seriously, both of them. Why are their sleeping postures so improper? Wuming shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Wuming walked to the side of the bed, bent down, and shook Ilya and Little Black. Ilya, Little Black, it's time to wake up. I have something to tell you. Wake up. Following Wuming's shaking and voice, Ilya and Little Black opened their eyes in a daze. Hey. It's Big Brother. Good morning kiss. Ilya smiled in a daze and reached out to hug Wuming. Again. Wuming, who had experienced it before, naturally did not fall for it this time. However, this was not the main point, but Ilya hugged Little Black and kissed Little Black's lips. Big Brother. Ilya said as she kissed. Wuming silently cast a soundproof barrier, just in case. At this moment, Ilya just woke up. Ilya was silent and looked at Little Black in a daze. Then, she looked at Wuming who was standing at the side. Wuming was also silent and did not say a word as he looked at the ceiling. Ilya's screams caused Wuming to helplessly cover his ears. As expected, I'm the genius who set up the soundproof barrier. Chapter 275. Alright then, I'll leave with Ilya and Little Black first. Wuming held Ilya and Little Black's hands and stood at the door to bid farewell to Sela. However, Little Black seemed to be holding back her laughter, while Ilya lowered her head with a blushing face. Yes, take care, Sela smiled and waved goodbye. After walking out of the door, Little Black began to laugh. Hee hee, Ilya is so cute. Little Black looked at Ilya playfully. Woo woo woo. Ilya felt even more ashamed. Even though Ilya's scream didn't reach Sela's ears, it woke up Little Black, who was still sleeping. Looking at Ilya's flushed and bewildered expression, looking at the astonished Wuming, feeling the moisture on her lips, and combining it with Ilya's scream, Little Black instantly understood everything. Come to think of it, I'm the victim. Why are you so shy when I haven't even said anything? Little Black looked at Ilya helplessly and held her forehead. But. Hoo. Ilya lowered her head even more. Isn't it because you wanted to have a morning kiss with Big Brother and ended up kissing me instead? Or is Ilya regretting that she didn't kiss Big Brother? At that moment, Little Black became mischievous again. You're talking nonsense. I didn't. However, Ilya's blushing and stuttering rebuttal didn't seem to be valid. Alright, that's enough. Little Black, let Ilya off. With soundless pleading on Ilya's behalf, Blackie naturally nodded. By the way, why did Big Brother look for us today? Little Black asked the key question. At the same time, Ilya also looked at Wuming. Of course, it's about the 9th class card. After Wuming said that, the two of them became particularly serious. After all, the servant transformed from the 9th class card was rather terrifying. Show you residents. A dark spatial door appeared out of thin air. Wuming walked out with Little Black and Ilya. We're here. Wuming let go of the hand that was held by Wuming out of fear. It had to be said that this teleportation gate spell was indeed a little scary, but it couldn't be helped. After all, it was a spell designed for darkness-type monsters. Ilya? Little Black? Mayo's voice came from the side. Mayu was sitting on the sofa in the living room, doing her summer homework. Mayu! Ilya shouted excitedly and then ran to Mayo's side. Little Hay also walked over. After seeing Mayu doing her summer homework, Little Hay didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I really don't know if I should say that Mayu is a natural or a careless person. She just went through such a horrible experience, but the next day, she started doing her summer homework as if nothing had happened. Wuming smiled helplessly. Mayo's personality was like that. Basically, she wouldn't be emotionally unstable because of anything. And the only time she had emotional lines was when Wuming's life was uncertain. But at that time, Mayu still insisted on doing what she was going to do next and didn't lose her fighting spirit completely because of emotional lines. Got to say, Mayu had an extremely calm mentality that even adults didn't have. But no matter what, Mayu was only a primary school student. After Wuming appeared from the mirror world, Mayu choked up and couldn't speak. This was clearly proven. Because if I don't do a little every day, I will have to work hard to make up for it in the future, Mayu answered in a serious manner. As expected of Mayu. That's Mayo's style of answering. Ilya and Little Black smiled awkwardly. It's about time, Wuming suddenly said. ? Ilya and the others looked at Wuming in confusion. Master, I've brought Rin Enosaka and Luvia Serena Edelfelt here. At that moment, Bazette's voice sounded from outside the door. Shortly after, Bazette pushed the door open and entered, followed by Luvia's black twin ponytails and blonde wavy hair. When Wuming got Bazette to buy ingredients, he also got him to bring Rin Enosaka and Luvia over. In the end, the natural Bazette tied up Rin Enosaka and Luvia and brought them over. Everyone arrived at a small conference room and sat on 2 rows of sofas in the conference room. Seriously, we would have come back if you just let us know. Is there a need to do this? Rin Enosaka stroked her twin ponytails in displeasure. That's right. You're really not ladylike at all, and you don't respect ladylike women at all. You actually tied me up with Rin and Osaka. Livia stroked her blonde wavy hair. What do you mean by that? Do you think I still like being tied up with you? Rin and Osaka glared at Livia fiercely. Ah, what a pitiful attitude, Rin and Osaka. Livia mocked back. Ahem, Wu Ming, who was sitting at the head of the table, coughed twice and then glared at Bazette. Bazette's body immediately tensed up like a mouse that saw a cat. She knew that she did something wrong again, probably. Wu Ming, who was sitting at the head of the table, stopped glaring at Bazette and began to speak. First, let's talk about the 9th grade card. Everyone had a serious look on their faces. After all, the blackened servant yesterday was an existence that fooled Wu Ming, and in the end, Wu Ming had to use Sun to eliminate the blackened servant. The blackened servant yesterday is my disciple, Hero King Gilgamesh. Brother Wu Ming's disciple? Ilya, Xiao Hei, and Mei Yu were surprised. Sure enough. Rin and Osaka and Livia said secretly. Yesterday, the blackened Gilgamesh used countless noble phantoms to bombard Rin and Osaka and the others. Not only did he have a noble phantasm that could cut through space, but he also had an airship that could fly and release ancient nuclear bombs. After Rin and Osaka and Livia's investigation, they almost locked onto the ancient king, Hero King Gilgamesh. The airship yesterday was Vimona, am I right? Bazette said. Wu Ming nodded. But, that Hero King was defeated by Big Brother, right? Ilya meant that there was no need to talk about the defeated enemy. No, actually, when I defeated him, I also destroyed the Great Holy Grail technique in Yuzhang Mountain. As a result, the two of them had some connection. With that said, Wu Ming snapped his fingers, and a golden ripple appeared beside him. Clatter. Young Gilgamesh fell to the ground with the sound of chains. Hello everyone, I'm Master's favorite disciple, Gilgamesh. Nice to meet you, Chapter 276. Young Gil's body was wrapped in chains, but even so, he still greeted everyone. This child is Big Brother's disciple, the oldest king? Ilya said in disbelief. It's the real deal. I'm the oldest king, the Hero King, Gilgamesh. Looking at young Gil's sweet smile, Ilya was dumbfounded. But why is the legendary oldest king a child? Blackie voiced out the doubts in Ilya's heart. This is probably how the Hero King, Gilgamesh, looked like when he was young. As expected of a first-rate magician from the clock tower, Rin Enbin instantly thought of this possibility. Rin is right. Because most of Gil's power is in another card, the current Hero King, Gilgamesh, is also a weakened version of a child, Wu Ming explained. Wait. Another card? Livia repeated what she heard from Wu Ming. Yes, that's right. This is also the topic of this meeting that I called everyone here. Then, Wu Ming told everyone that he and Mei Yu came from another world, which was the parallel world. Because of the House of Einstein Barons, of the other world, Ainsworth's persecution of Mei Yu, Wu Ming fought with him and was tricked in the end. Shiro Amiya of the other world used the Holy Grail to make a wish and sent Mei Yu to this world. He also came to this world because he was pulled by the Holy Grail when he disappeared. He told everyone a series of things. Big Brother from the other world? Ilya said slowly. The House of Einstein Barons, of the parallel world, Ainsworth. Blackie said with a serious expression. The Holy Grail War of the Cards. I see, Bazette said thoughtfully. No wonder you know so much about the class cards. Rin Enbin looked at Wu Ming and Mei Yu with a look of relief. So why are you telling us all this? Livia asked. Isn't this what you've always wanted to know? Wu Ming smiled. I'm sorry, Ilya, Little Black. Mei Yu looked at Ilya and Little Black apologetically. How could that be, Mei Yu? After all, everyone has things that they don't want to talk about. It's not your fault. Ilya held Mei Yu's hand and smiled at Mei Yu. It wasn't easy for Ilya to say something reliable, but she's right. Mayu, if you want to blame someone, blame Big Brother. It's Big Brother's fault for hiding it from us, Little Black said mischievously. No. You can't blame Brother Wuming. I'm also responsible for everything here. Mayu shook her head in a slight panic. This made Wuming laugh. You guys. I'll buy ice cream for you guys later as an apology. How about that? Really? I want strawberry-flavored ice cream, and it's a double-layer ice cream. Ilya looked excited. Seriously, Amir Ilya was bought over by ice cream. Little Black looked at Ilya with disdain. He. Ilya didn't refute. She scratched her head awkwardly. If it's me, I want 4 layers of double-flavored ice cream, Little Black said proudly. Ah. Little Black, you're still talking about me. Aren't you also bought over? Ilya's little face puffed up like a little bun as she stared at Little Black. I think, Wuming, you must have other things, Livia said after thinking for a while. Wuming smiled slightly. You're right. I'm preparing to attack Ainsworth, and I want you guys to help me take care of Mayu. What? When Wuming said this, everyone shouted in surprise. Among them, Mayu had the most intense reaction. Why? I want to go back with Brother Wuming. Mayu said with a slightly anxious tone. That's not a good choice, Wuming. Rin Enbin crossed his legs. You said it yourself. Because you were defeated by Ainsworth, with the help of the parallel worlds. Amiya, Kun, Mayu was sent to this world. If you go back, wouldn't you be walking right into a trap? Ilya and Little Black nodded frantically. Unfortunately, even if I don't go back, Ainsworth has the ability to find this place. Since that's the case, I might as well act first and gain the upper hand, Wuming explained. Then, Livia arrogantly pointed at herself. If that's the case, you'll need someone else's help. Coincidentally, I, Livia Sarinta Eiderfelt, happen to be a good ally. I'm quite free these days. Also, don't forget, you promised to help me analyze class cards. If you don't know how to do it, who's going to help me analyze class cards? Rin Enbin followed Livia's words and said. When Livia heard this, her expression changed. Damn you, Rin Enbin, you actually secretly asked Wuming to help analyze class cards behind my back. Livia stared at Rin Enbin, and Rin Enbin didn't back down and stared back at Livia. I'm hiding it from you, what can you do about it? Their eyes were filled with the flames of battle. Since they can find us, I think it's better to act first and gain the upper hand according to Big Brother's words. Although I'm not that strong, I'll still help with Mayu and Big Brother's matter. Ilya clenched her fists and encouraged herself. My heart is the Archer class card. Since I'm already involved in this matter, of course I have to help Big Brother solve this matter. Little Black then jumped into Wuming's arms and hugged Wuming's neck affectionately. Moreover, the magic power essence that Big Brother gave me is now flowing well in my body. I have to repay you well, you. What are you doing? Little Black, get down from me. Ilya's face instantly turned red, and she quickly ran over to pull Little Black away from Wuming's arms. This matter has nothing to do with me, but the other party has all the secrets of the class cards. As the designated executor of the seal, I have to take it back. Bazit had a serious expression. However, Wuming looked at Bazit with a teasing expression. Cough, after all, I still owe you a debt, master. Bazit's face turned red. It had to be said that although Bazet was a bit silly, as a magician, he still had a bit of humanity. Of course, it was only a bit. Everyone. Mayu looked at everyone in the room with tears in her eyes. As if in tacit agreement, Rin and Osaka and Livia who were glaring at each other, Ilya and Blackie who were tugging at each other, and Bazit who had been sitting there without moving, all looked at Wuming in unison. Wuming closed his eyes and said helplessly. It's really troublesome. I understand, then I'll leave it to everyone. Oh. Ah, it's good to be united, don't you think so, little blue? Ruby floated on the side and said while watching the scene. Sister finally said something reliable, I'll reluctantly accept you today. Sapphire said calmly. Ah. Little blue, why are you like this? I'm so sad. Please don't do this again, sister. Finally, young Gil, who had been tied up by Enkidu, looked at Wuming with a smile. Sensei, it seems that you're becoming more and more human. Chapter 277. Then, everyone freeloaded a meal at Wuming's house. A few days later, Ilya and Blackie used the excuse of going camping with Wuming to apply for leave from home and left the Arinsbellen mansion. When everyone was ready at the Shoasuki mansion, Wuming wasn't in a hurry to activate the parallel world technique. As for whether Wuming could travel through parallel worlds, it was naturally a piece of cake for Wuming, who could travel through parallel worlds on his own. Because he needed to locate the parallel world where Ainsworth was, Wuming spent a few days. This was also why Ilya and the others only applied for leave a few days later. Seriously, what do you mean by eating the last dinner in this world? You make it sound like we're dead for sure. Rin and Osaka ate the dinner Wuming prepared and complained at the table. Well, after all, I haven't finished locating that parallel world. Bringing the entire Shoasuki mansion through parallel worlds isn't an ordinary job, Wuming said. Well, big sister Rin, please understand big brother. Ilya smiled, but her smile was a little puzzled. By the way, why did big brother bring his mansion through with him? Isn't that too strange? Blackie asked the question that Ilya didn't ask. Bazette, Livia, and Rin and Osaka also looked at Wuming, indicating that they also wanted to know. Then, Wuming smiled but didn't say anything. It's like this. The Shoasuki mansion that Brother Wuming built is actually Brother Wuming's magic workshop, Meiyu said. Although Wuming didn't tell Meiyu about the workshop's control room Meiyu vaguely knew about it, but Meiyu didn't ask. As for the other places in the Shoayu residence, when Wuming had found Meiyu and brought her to the Shoayu residence, Wuming had told Meiyu everything. Meiyu could be said to be Wuming's most beloved person. It was true that Wuming had been to many places and met many people, but Wuming really regarded Meiyu as his closest relative. The other was an origin dragon that had no parents and only had the Great Origin as its ultimate goal. One was a pure holy grail from birth. Meiyu was born with a mechanism that allowed her to fulfill her wishes based on the influence of her surroundings. Before meeting Wuming, she had only met her mother. Before meeting Wuming, she had not received any general education. It was only after meeting Wuming that she began to grow as a person. Julian once said that rather than saying that Meiyu had the nature of the Holy Grail, it was better to say that the Holy Grail had awakened a human personality. Meiyu was such an existence. It could be said that before the age of 5, which was before all of Meiyu's relatives died, Meiyu could barely remember anything. At that time, Meiyu only remembered her mother. Now, due to the nature of the Holy Grail, Meiyu had forgotten about her mother. After all, for the Meiyu at that time, her mother was the only person she depended on. In addition, at the beginning, Shiro Amiya used Wuming and Meiyu as tools because of Amiya Kiritsugu's will. Therefore, Meiyu's closest relative could only be Wuming. Fortunately, Shiro Amiya was later enlightened by Wuming's words and began to treat Wuming and Meiyu as a real brother and sister. Meiyu also didn't ignore Shiro Amiya and had already regarded Shiro Amiya as a brother. However, compared to Wuming, this brother's weight was still not enough. Magic Workshop. Having said that, Wuming's profession is caster, magician, right? It seems that this makes sense. Rin Hasaka was surprised at first, then said after thinking about it. By the way, what does Magic Workshop mean? Ilya raised her small hand and smiled a little shyly. Really, Ilya, you can be regarded as a person who has stepped into the world of magicians. How can you not know the essential knowledge of magicians? Xiao Hei touched his forehead helplessly, then began to explain. The so-called Magic Workshop refers to the position set up by the magicians themselves. In their magic workshop, the magician's magic will be greatly enhanced. Not only can they monitor the enemies in the magic workshop in real time, but they can also set up traps, weapons, and the like against the enemy in the magic workshop. In short, it is a very powerful magic fortress. Don't fight with magicians in their magic workshop. This is common sense in the world of magicians. Livia said. Do you still remember the caster, magician, class card that we recovered? At that time, the mirror world had already been set up by Caster as the magic workshop. At that time, the magic circle and the super powerful magic cannon attack that we saw at that time were the effects of the magic workshop. Rin Enbin added. In this way, Ilya completely understood. So, Big Brother can also set up countless magic circles in his own house. Ilya said with some excitement. After all, the power of countless magic cannons was really not small, and the scene was very spectacular and gorgeous. Ilya naturally felt that it was very powerful. Well. In fact, I can do it now. Wuming touched his chin, then snapped his fingers. In an instant, countless magic circles of various sizes appeared in various places of Shoasuke's house. The courtyard, the house, the sky, and the ground were full of magic circles everywhere. Even the bowl and chopsticks used by Ilya had several small magic circles. Ilya was instantly shocked. Each magic circle is full of magic power beyond imagination. There should be a limit to cheating, Bazette, Livia, and Rin Hasaka said with some disbelief. Then, Wuming snapped his fingers again, and all the magic circles disappeared in an instant. These are very simple magic circles that can release magic cannons. What I don't lack the least is magic power. These are no big deal. Wuming said modestly. Rin Hasaka and the others' mouths twitched. Sure enough, heroic spirits and humans could not be compared. Even a heroic spirit's clone servant was not something that humans could catch up with, not to mention that the servant in front of them was a top-level fantasy breed that had always been alive. These are all child's play. As long as it's an enemy, I can instantly make it disappear the moment it enters Shoasuke's house. Wuming said with a smile. Extreme cold, extreme flame, concentrated venom, forced gravity suppression, atomic split, concept rewriting, as long as it's in my shrine, I'm a true god. Wuming said without hesitation. Well, although it was true, it had to be inside Wuming's magic workshop. Therefore, if the enemy attacked from the outside and did not enter Wuming's magic workshop, then Wuming could not be a god for people who were not in the magic workshop. By the way, Big Brother, I have something to ask you. Little Black suddenly said. What is it, Little Black? Wuming nodded, indicating that Little Black could ask. Since Shoasuke's house is Big Brother's magic workshop, then will Big Brother do something to us when we are asleep? Ah. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. Also, will Big Brother spy on us through the surveillance camera? Xiao Hei is really curious. Although everyone knew that Wuming would not do this, they felt more and more uneasy when Little Black said this. I say you. Wuming was a little helpless. Just as he opened his mouth to say a few words, young Gil on the side interrupted Wuming's speech. You guys are too shallow. Teacher's words do not need to be sneaky, it must be open and aboveboard, you guys can rest assured. Everyone hugged their bodies tightly. I feel like you're making me sound worse. How can that be, teacher? I'm just telling the truth. It hurts. This hand chop is a lesson, next time use my body. Please show mercy, teacher. Just like this, with an uneasy mentality, everyone began the last sleep of this world. Chapter 278. In the middle of the night, when almost everyone was asleep, Wuming appeared on the roof of the Shuayu residence and looked at the Yuanzang mountain. That's right, he was looking at the Yuanzang mountain that had been destroyed but had reappeared. Space displacement, huh? Wuming frowned and explained the reason for the reappearance of the Yuanzang mountain. Ah, teacher, it seems like the other party has already found their way here. Accompanied by golden particles, young Gil landed beside Wuming and looked at the Yuanzang mountain together. The Magic Association and the Holy Church are going to be busy again. Wuming shook his head expressionlessly. Previously, the reason why Wuming didn't cover up the disappearance of the Yuanzang mountain and directly attributed it to the meteorite and natural gas was because the sun that Wuming summoned that night had attracted the attention of the residents in the surrounding cities. The Magic Association and the Holy Church used their magic to hint at the meteorite and natural gas explosion and successfully imprinted it into the hearts of the people. And now, the Yuanzang mountain that had been covered up and disappeared had reappeared. Without thinking, Wuming knew that it would be extremely troublesome to deal with the aftermath. Since the other party is already here, shouldn't we go and meet them, teacher? Young Gil said with a relaxed expression. Actually, that's what I was thinking, but... Wuming smiled mysteriously. Young Gil shivered. His mischievous personality wasn't affected by his teacher at all. The next morning, Ilya woke up in her own bedroom. Although Ilya had stayed in Wuming's house for a short period of time, it was still easy for her to sleep soundly. I don't recognize the ceiling. Ilya said in a daze. Right, this is Big Brother and Mayo's house. No, you can't sleep in someone else's house. Although she said that, Ilya didn't panic. After all, she had stayed here for quite some time and this could be considered her second home. Ilya hurriedly sat up and patted her face. Then, she began to wash up in the bathroom in the bedroom. It had to be said that one could really do anything with money. Not only did Wuming and Mayo's rooms have their own private bathroom, but even the rest of the guest rooms had their own private bathroom. And these independent bathrooms were luxurious, with toilets, washstands, baths, and almost everything. And because it was Wuming's magic workshop, it had an automatic cleaning function, which was why Wuming didn't hire others to clean such a large house. Although Mayu would clean it sometimes, because it was too clean, Mayu didn't have anything to clean for Mayu. I can only say that as expected of Big Brother. Mayu seems to be living the life of a young lady. Ilya thought. After walking out of the bedroom, Ilya arrived at the dining room. Ilya had been living in Wuming's house for nearly every morning. Either she would get up because she couldn't stay in bed in someone else's house, or she would be gently awakened by Wuming. But, after washing up, the first thing she would do was to go to the dining room of the Shuoyu residence. After all, it's Big Brother's food. I have to treat this food well. Ilya gulped, somewhat impatient. The dining room of the Shuoyu residence wasn't large, but it was still much larger than the dining rooms of ordinary people. It was more than enough to accommodate Rin Enben, Ilya, and the others. After arriving at the dining room, Ilya discovered that Rin Enben, Luvia, Mayu, Blackie, Bazette, and Gil were already sitting at the table and enjoying the food. Am I the last one? Ilya scratched her head in embarrassment. Too slow, Ilya. If you came any later, I would have eaten your share, Blackie said mischievously. How can that be? Ilya hurriedly sat down, expressing her ownership of the breakfast. That's why, Ilya-chan, you can only eat good food if you sleep early and wake up early. Ruby darted out from Ilya's hair, wriggled her body, and floated beside Ilya to tease her. I'm also waking up early now, but everyone woke up earlier than me. Speaking of which, why is everyone able to wake up so early? Ilya sat down on her seat, and began to enjoy the breakfast that her big brother had prepared for her. Seriously, even though you're Ilya, you still have the habit of lazing in bed. I think you were able to wake up because of the temptation of Big Brother's breakfast. Blackie's words seemed to have exposed Ilya's secret, and Ilya's face instantly flushed red. How? How is that possible? Ahaha. In response, Ilya could only laugh dryly. If it's me, I only need to sleep for 4 hours, Bazette suddenly said seriously. Ilya laughed dryly. If she remembered correctly, this big sister in front of her seemed to be called a monster by Big Sister Ling and Big Sister Luvia. As for Lord Mayu, it's because of a good habit that she's been cultivating. Sapphire floated beside Mayu and explained. Because Brother Wuming has been working very hard, so I wanted to wake up early to help Brother Wuming do something. Mayu said with a slightly red face. As for Ling and Luvia, I think they were the ones who were purely tempted by Wuming's delicious food. Ruby floated above Ling and Luvia's heads, and said playfully while wriggling her body. How is that possible, Ruby? Ilya was just about to refute when she saw Ling and Luvia's faces instantly turn red. Could it really be? Ilya was embarrassed. I think you're tired of living, Ruby. Rin Enbin instantly grabbed Ruby. How dare you casually judge a lady, you better be mentally prepared, Ruby. Wait. Ilya. Save me. Then, Ruby was pulled into a room by two people. Ahaha. Ilya was helpless. What about Gil, Kun? In order to hide her embarrassment, Ilya looked at this child who looked younger than her but was a king. Isn't this normal? I'm a king, which king would laze around in bed? Young Gil held a glass of red wine elegantly and took a sip. Is that so? Ilya smiled. Speaking of which, why is Big Brother gone? Is he still in the kitchen? Ilya just realized that Wuming was not among the people eating here. If it's teacher, he's outside now. Young Gil seemed to have thought of something and smiled slightly. If it's possible, I suggest that all of you go out and take a look. It must be very interesting. Young Gil said mysteriously. Coincidentally, Rin Enbin and Luvia had also returned at this time, along with Ruby who seemed to have been played with. Ruby. Ilya looked at Ruby with some heartache. Ilya, you must avenge me. Ruby looked like she could not take it anymore and her voice began to tremble. Please let me deal with my sister, Ilya-sama. As Sapphire spoke, a string appeared from her body and wrapped around Ruby, dragging her away. Wait, little blue. When she was being pushed away by Sapphire, Ruby regained her energetic voice. As expected, she's pretending again. Ilya was helpless. By the way, what did Wuming do again? Rin Enbin asked curiously after hearing young Gil's words. You'll know when you go out. Young Gil took another sip of red wine elegantly. Ilya and the others looked at each other, then stood up one after another and walked outside. Big brother, listen to Gil, Kun, you're. Ilya said as she pushed the door open, but the moment she opened the door, Ilya's voice stopped abruptly. As if she was stunned by the scene before her, Ilya was stunned. Of course, the others were the same. Wuming, who was standing in the snow, turned his head and smiled. What, have you all finished eating? Chapter 279. Everyone was stunned. Of course, it wasn't because Wuming had suddenly become so handsome. Instead, it was because of their surroundings. The mansion was still the familiar mansion. The sky was still the familiar sky. The city outside was still the same city. However, Big brother, what's going on? Why is it snowing all of a sudden? Ilya was a little excited. That's right. The mansion was still the familiar mansion. The sky was still the familiar sky. The city outside was still the same city. Everything that Ilya and the others saw was covered in a layer of snow. In short, it was snowing. Is this what Gilgamesh meant when he said it was very interesting? Although I don't know how you made it snow in the summer, why did you suddenly do it? Rin Tasaka walked to the snowy ground in the courtyard. He asked Wuming while enjoying the coldness brought about by the snowflakes. Everyone walked to the courtyard as well. Through the temperature and material structure, this is indeed snow. Bazit analyzed seriously. Amazing. Big brother, it's really snow. Ilya started running in the courtyard. She was enjoying the fun that could only be enjoyed in winter. Mayu also reached out her hand in nostalgia. She felt the coolness brought about by the snowflakes. I didn't do anything to the weather. Wuming waved his hand innocently. Isn't it Big Brother who did it? Little Black asked in confusion. Everyone looked at Wuming in confusion. We've already arrived in a parallel world. Everyone in the house exclaimed. Only Mei Yu, who had more or less guessed it, and young Gil, who already knew about it, didn't make a fuss. Hey. Don't be so surprised. Aren't you all prepared to head to a parallel world? Wuming covered his ears helplessly. But, after sleeping for a night, we arrived in a parallel world. It's not shocking at all. Little Black had a look of regret. Yeah, shouldn't transmigrating to a parallel world be very spectacular? Transmigrating to a parallel world just like that is quite boring, Ilya agreed. Traveling through parallel worlds is an ability comparable to magic. I originally wanted to observe it carefully, but it's a pity. Bazit coughed and said with a reddened face. More importantly, we're going to travel to a parallel world. A parallel world. What do you think this is? Do you think we'll arrive at our destination after taking a nap on the train? Rin and Osaka said frantically. You're just a mere monkey. To put it bluntly, you're just throwing a tantrum because you didn't see it, Livia said gracefully. It was as if she wasn't among the group of people who had screamed just now. You upstart. Aren't you the same? At least I'll say it out loud. You, on the other hand, only know how to keep it in your heart and pretend to be elegant. How disgusting! Rin and Osaka also elegantly played with her twin ponytails and began mocking Livia. A mere Japanese monkey pretending to be elegant is even more disgusting. You blonde upstart. Japanese monkeys. Immediately, the two of them began to wrestle with each other like children. Ruby sighed helplessly as she watched the two of them wrestle. As expected, giving up on the two of them was the right choice. My Ilya is still the best. She's bullied by me every day and doesn't throw a tantrum. Immediately, Ruby said with a playful tone as if she was taking pleasure in others' misfortune. Mayu-sama is also better than Livia-sama in this aspect. Also, sister, Ilya-sama isn't a toy. Sapphire said and tapped Ruby. That's right. Don't tease me every day, Ruby. Ilya also protested. Really, you guys are really noisy. Wuming said helplessly. Then, Wuming held Mayo's hand and walked to the side. Brother Wuming. Mayu didn't understand why Wuming was holding her hand. Wuming didn't answer Mayo's question and only looked at Mayu dotingly. This made Mayu blush. Actually, the enemy already appeared last night. When Wuming said this, whether it was Rin Enbin and Livia who were fooling around or Mayu who was being held by Wuming, everyone tensed up. Of course, except for the young Gil. The Yuzong mountain that disappeared last night has reappeared. Wasn't it done by the Magic Association or the Holy Church? Ilya asked. The Magic Association wouldn't use a method to repair the Yuzong mountain in one night. It's not worth it. As for the Holy Church, they're the same as the Magic Association. Rin Enbin shook his head. That's right. Also, if my senses aren't wrong, the Yuzong mountain's reappearance is due to displacement magic. Wuming held Mayo's hand and said to everyone. Are you talking about the Ainsworth family? Livia asked solemnly. Most likely. Wuming nodded. Feeling the tension from Mayo's body, Wuming gently held the back of Mayo's hand. Don't worry, Mayu. This time, I'll take care of Ainsworth once and for all. Wuming said with incomparable confidence. Okay, I believe in Brother Wuming. Mayu hugged Wuming's arm, her face filled with warmth. Ahem, Little Black coughed. Ah. Mayu hurriedly let go of Wuming's arm. It's time for a meeting. Even Mayu can't be lovey-dovey in front of us. Little Black said sternly. Yes. Yes. Mayu nodded with a red face. Wuming laughed. You little girl, you're obviously jealous. However, as if he had gotten the words he wanted, Little Black laughed. Since Big Brother said so, then I'll hug Big Brother's arm. Ha! Little Black pounced and instantly fell into Wuming's arms. Wuming subconsciously caught Little Black. Ah! Little Black, how can you do this? Ilya shouted and hurriedly ran to Wuming's side. As a girl, how can you be so immature? As she spoke, Ilya tugged at Little Black's arm that was hugging Wuming. Hee Ilya is jealous, right? Do you want to do it together with me? Little Black rolled his eyes and said sneakily. Huh? That. Ilya was slightly hesitant and stunned. Seeing the hesitant Ilya, Little Black felt as if he had caught something that could be used against her. As expected, Ilya is jealous. Ah. I'm not. Anyway, let go of Big Brother. Ilya started tugging again with a red face. That, Ilya, Little Black, let go of Big Brother first. Mayu sat beside Wuming and said shyly. Since it's like this, then let's hug Big Brother together. Little Black decided to just go with the flow. What a sinful man. Bazette shook his head. Lelakan. Rin and Osaka and Luia said in disdain. This king is happy to see this side of teacher. Young Gil pretended to be mature as he looked at Wuming. Wuming's face was filled with helplessness. Alright, let's stop when it's appropriate. Wuming raised his hand and instantly slammed it down. Bam! Chapter 280. Wuming raised his hand and slashed down. The hand blade that landed consecutively hit young Jill, Ilya, and Little Black's heads. Ugh! Ilya held her head and yelled. It hurts. Big Brother, what are you doing? Little Black protested. You guys are already considered light. Wuming pointed at young Gil. Ilya and Little Black turned around and saw that young Gil had fainted on the spot. Smoke was rising from his head. Then why is Mayu fine? Little Black saw that his attack had failed and quickly changed the target. Huh? Mayu was shocked. Mayu is very obedient, unlike you and Ilya. As he said that, Wuming patted Mayu's head. Mayu cooperatively rubbed her head against his. Little Black and Ilya stared at Wuming and Mayu with puffed-up cheeks. Seeing Ilya and Little Black's reaction, Wuming quickly patted their heads and apologized. Alright, it's my fault. I'll treat you guys to something later as an apology. Please forgive me. That's more like it. I say, it's about time to continue the topic. Rin Enbin held his forehead helplessly. That's right. Jokes are enough. After all, we still have serious matters to attend to. Lu Weya nodded. Wuming patted Ilya and Little Black's heads again and gestured for them to return to their seats. Knowing that it was time to be serious, the two of them returned to their seats. As for Mayu, she naturally continued to sit beside Wuming. Last night, I purposely went to the new Yuanzhang mountain to investigate. As he spoke, Wuming began to recall. Wuming cast a few concealment tactics on himself and quietly arrived at the Yuanzhang mountain. As expected, part of the ley lines have been replaced. Wuming crouched on the ground with one hand on the ground and examined the ley lines of the Yuanzhang mountain. Wuming stood up and looked in the direction of the entrance. Mayu had once told Wuming that when she first came to this world, she had walked out of the big hole. In this way, through counter-evidence, the enemy should have appeared in the big hole in the Yuanzhang mountain. With that said, Wuming walked towards the entrance of the large hole. Wuming stopped when he was about to approach. To be safe, let's use this, Wuming said as he reached his hand into the golden ripples and took out a card. It depicted a person wearing a skull mask and holding a curved dagger. This was the Assassin class card. Class card Assassin, install, Dream Summon. In an instant, Wuming's mana wrapped around the class card. Then, the class card melted and turned into a ball of mana that wrapped around Wuming. After the mana calmed down, Wu Ming appeared in a black robe. The hooded black robe wrapped tightly around Wu Ming, only his face was exposed. Wu Ming wore a skull mask that could only cover his eyes. In addition to his expressionless face, anyone would think that he was an emotionless killer. As expected, it's the cursed wrist again. With that said, Wu Ming revealed an arm that was hidden under the cloak. The arm was wrapped in bandages and no skin could be seen. However, it was no different from Wu Ming's normal arm except for an extra layer of bandages. At this moment, the arm wrapped in bandages was emitting wisps of black gas that spread towards Wu Ming's body. The arm of the demon god. No wonder Shinji Madu was deranged. Even without the side effects of the card, ordinary people would be corroded by this arm. To think that he could still maintain a little bit of self-awareness. Wu Ming felt the evil energy from his arm as if it could not be suppressed and was about to corrode Wu Ming. However, since it's just a mere power, you should calm down. With that said, wisps of lightning burst out from Wu Ming's body. Wu Ming's bandaged arm seemed to be trembling. The black gas was retracted and it calmed down. Wu Ming retracted his arm under his robe and disappeared from where he stood in a flash. Inside the Yuanzhong mountain. 2 females appeared here. The one on the left spoke first. This should be the Yuanzhong mountain of the other world. She was dressed strangely. Her lower body was covered in golden armor and her upper body was only covered by clothes that covered her chest. There were red patterns on her abdomen and waist and golden armor on her arms. Her hair was tied into 2 thin ponytails with a decorative horn embedded on one side of the ponytails. Coupled with her cold eyes, she had the aura of a queen. This woman was none other than Angelica Ainsworth, the one who used the Gilgamesh card. Really, it's just a holy grail. Why would the 2 of us need to make a move? Isn't this too much of a fuss? The one on the right spoke. She had red hair that was tied into 2 ponytails. She wore tattered fur clothes that covered her abdomen. Her lower body was covered in fur, and her legs were covered with fur boots that looked like long boots. Her golden eyes were filled with raging madness, accompanied by a wide smile, which made people feel terrified. However, the most terrifying thing was her right hand. Her huge right hand was as thick as a small car and she was holding a hammer that was filled with lightning. Don't be careless, Beatrice Frauerchad. Although Hyunryong was defeated by Lord Julian, he was absorbed by the Holy Grail that crossed over here. There's no guarantee that he won't come back to life. Don't forget, when you used the Hercules card, you were killed by him. If Lord Julian didn't save you, you wouldn't be standing here. After listening to Angelica's words, the girl named Beatrice was a little scared. At that time, the berserker who came with Atlas was Beatrice. For some unknown reason, Beatrice, who used the berserker class card, completely went berserk, and her appearance became the same as the original berserker. When Wu Ming invaded her inner world, Beatrice had a mental breakdown because of Wu Ming. She directly contacted the dream summoning and turned into a puppet and disappeared. Although that's the case, you're not dead. Compared to the others, you're easier to control. This is why Lord Julian replaced you, Angelica said coldly. Yes, I know. Beatrice pretended to say helplessly, but she still looked quite arrogant. However, Angelica wouldn't say anything to Beatrice. As a puppet, all she needed to do was to obey her master's orders and nothing else was required. Let's go. Lord Mayu should be here. Let's complete the mission as soon as possible. What should I say? Knowing that I'm likely to be here, Julian only sent 2 people. A voice came from the void. Who is it? Chapter 281. Angelica and Beatrice were both shocked. Both of them did not notice the incoming enemy. A black figure walked out of the shadows. Why, I haven't seen you for 2 months. Don't you recognize me, Angelica? The person took off his hood and revealed his face. It's you. Wu Ming, no, I should call you Hyunryong. Angelica's eyes narrowed suddenly. It's him. Compared to Angelica, Beatrice's performance was much worse. She clearly felt the fear in her heart. It was Wuming who invaded her inner world and caused her to have a mental breakdown and disappear. The one beside you is the berserker, right? Wuming seemed to recognize Beatrice and looked at her. After all, Wuming was the one who caused her to have a mental breakdown. Wuming naturally knew what she looked like in her inner world. How pitiful. She was used as a puppet by Julian again. Wuming was not surprised. He just felt a little pity. After understanding Beatrice's inner world, Wuming really felt sorry for this girl. However, although he felt sorry for her, Wuming would not show mercy to his enemies. Damn it! Don't underestimate me. Beatrice was furious when she felt Wuming's pitiful eyes. In an instant, the giant hammer in Beatrice's hand flashed with purple lightning and sizzled. Zila dash. Beatrice controlled the purple lightning and blasted it in Wuming's direction. Is this lightning that can cause harm to God? After Wuming became a god slayer, even if he left the world of god slayers, the god slayer's physique remained with Wuming. It had a very high magic resistance. Spells that did not reach the god level would not work on god slayers. Only magic that could cause harm to God or pure physical attacks could cause harm to god slayers. This special effect naturally included Wuming's avatar as a servant. But, if that's all, then there's no need to defend. As Wuming spoke, he did not do anything. He only used his physical body to take Beatrice's lightning attack. The result was naturally intact. What? He took my attack with just his physical body, and he's still intact. Beatrice was in disbelief. After all, Wuming, who had undergone the root baptism and had grown a lot, could be regarded as a top existence among fantasy breeds. As a top existence of fantasy breeds, his defense could not be broken by an ordinary attack, even if he was a servant's avatar. It doesn't look like you used a defensive ability or the ability of a class card. Angelica frowned. Did you recognize the class card I'm using now? You're right. After all, you're a member of the Ainsworth family. I'm showing off in front of an expert. With that said, Wuming cancelled the assassin class card. But then again, Ainsworth's things are really useful. Wuming smiled. It seems that the class cards that were scattered in this world should have been recovered by you, Angelica said indifferently. Why, do you want it? Wuming put the assassin into the golden ripple, but he was not in a hurry to take his hand out. I don't think you'll just give us the class card, Hyunryong. Angelica narrowed her eyes. Of course, as long as your goal is still Mayu. With that said, Wuming pulled his hand out of the golden ripple, and along with Wuming's hand, he pulled out the golden twisted scepter. Then we're enemies. Noble and powerful, wise and kind, I will incarnate into a miracle and lead the world to the dawn. With the chanting of the soul language, Wuming's magic power seemed to have become endless, and it spread to the surroundings wantonly. This huge amount of magic power. Angelica and Beatrice raised their hands and subconsciously resisted the storm caused by Wuming's magic power. The power of the magician incarnation was not only able to give people protection, enhance the power of magic, and speed up the chanting of spells. The most important thing was that after activating the magician incarnation, Wuming's magic output was doubled. For example, Wuming's magic power was a lake. Usually, Wuming relied on the tap connected to his home to extract water. Now, Wuming relied on opening the dam gate to extract water. What did this mean? This meant that Wuming who activated the magician incarnation could use more powerful magic. Wuming touched the ground with the bottom of the staff of Ain's Ergong. Just in an instant, Angelica and Beatrice found that the scene around them changed. The two of them stood on a huge rock in the middle of an endless expanse of magma. As for Wuming, he floated in the sky and looked down at the two of them from above. Inherent barrier, Nazaric 7th layer of magma hell. The magician's buff allowed Wuming to instantly activate the inherent barrier. Not only that, but the inherent barrier was also strengthened. This is inherent barrier. Beatrice broke out in cold sweat. Even if she knew that Angelica had a world-defying noble phantasm, Beatrice, who already had a psychological fear of Wuming, was even more afraid. Let me give you a greeting, ladies. Wuming gracefully performed an ancient noble's etiquette, and then raised the staff of Ain's Ergong. Parallel deployment, super magic, fall down. Countless interlocking magic circles constantly appeared in every corner of the inherent barrier. The sky, magma, rocks, almost every place was occupied by magic circles, except for a few meters around the two. Countless magic circles seemed to be connected, and one by one, all the magic circles flashed with blue light. Not good. Angelica quickly activated Gate of Babylon, and countless golden ripples appeared around Angelica and Beatrice. There were simply too many of them. It was impossible to use the Gate of Babylon's noble phantasm to destroy all of these magic circles that were obviously not to be trifled with. Beatrice. If you don't want to die, hurry up and defend. Angelica said to Beatrice anxiously. I know it even if you don't say it. Beatrice was sweating, and the giant hammer in her hand produced violent lightning. Well, that's it. If you can survive, then I will return the class card to you. After that, Wuming smiled and disappeared from the inherent barrier. A few seconds after Wuming disappeared, all the magic circles seemed to have reached the limit, and they burst out with amazing light and heat, dyeing the entire inherent barrier into a world of light. Chapter 282. After that, I immediately activated the spell that transmigrated through parallel worlds overnight, bringing you and the Shuoyu residents here while you were still asleep. Wuming finished his explanation. In other words, when the enemy attacked, you wiped them out and brought us to the enemy's lair? Rin and Osaka summarized. If only it was as easy as you make it out to be. Wuming looked at Rin and Osaka helplessly. But, the enemy was indeed wiped out by you, wasn't it? Rin and Osaka waved his hand. Speaking of which, if you were able to wipe out the enemy's strongest force, how did you get defeated? Livia raised her doubts. In his explanation, Wuming said that the enemy was the Ainsworth family's strongest force. This has nothing to do with strength. Wuming shook his head. Look at Gil, he was also defeated by me. Wuming then pointed at young Gil who had woken up. Did I fall asleep just now? I think I dreamt that sensei knocked on my head and my head hurt. Young Gil had a pained expression as he held his head with one hand. That's true, all right. Ilya retorted helplessly. Cough anyway, the enemy used something that countered me and tricked me. I'm not the same person now. Wuming continued. Also, the most important thing is that Mount Yuanzhang exploded again. Wuming helplessly waved his hand. What? Everyone was shocked. That. Because I was a little interested, yesterday's move was a little exaggerated. Ahaha. Wuming laughed awkwardly. Although Wuming released his supreme level magic in his own inherent barrier and the inherent barrier was strengthened by the magician's attribute, the supreme level magic that Wuming used yesterday was one of the best supreme level magic spells that focused on destruction. Moreover, because of the Sorcerer Avatar's bonus, the super magic that originally required a long time to be released could be released in just a dozen seconds. Also, because Wuming used magic power explosion once, Wuming used parallel spread, and the supreme level magic he used almost covered the entire inherent barrier. The so-called parallel spread was a move that used multiple skills. This was the skill that Wuming analyzed from the class card. After all, it was troublesome to use supreme level magic one by one, so Wuming simply used parallel spread and released countless supreme level magic spells. Moreover, Wuming also used chain formation, which linked the power of each magic formation to get the result of 1 + 1 + 1, + 1 = infinity. That was also related to Wuming's double authority. That was the power of Wuming's noble phantasm, 12 incarnations. Each incarnation could be said to be a powerful noble phantasm. However, those noble phantasm could only be used by Wuming alone, because the magical power consumed by those noble phantasm was comparable to the magical power of a holy grail. Then, after being hit by such a powerful attack, the inherent barrier was directly broken. Even the Yuanzhang mountain seemed to have been hit by a meteor once again. Wuming didn't know how the news reported this time. That night, Wuming directly used sorcery to leave. Well, after all, it's also an accident that I caused, it's better to run away quickly. Wuming waved his hand awkwardly. Really, even if that's the case, the magic association won't trouble you. What are you afraid of? Rin Enben helplessly stroked his cheek. So, if we just follow such a big building to the parallel world, won't it attract the attention of the officials? Luvia asked. It had to be said that Luvia had asked a good question. Of course not. As you know, I lived in this world for a while. I also have my own house in Winterwood City in this world. When I moved Shuasuki's house here, I chose to exchange it with this world's house. Wuming said with a smile, then waved his hand, and a screen appeared in front of everyone. On the screen, a house similar to Shuasuki's house appeared. This is the original location of Shuasuki's house. I have moved the house in this world, and now the house in this world is Shuasuki's house. Wuming explained. As expected, there are many times when I feel that Wuming is a friend and not an enemy. That's great. Rin Enben sighed and then said. I have to say, Rin Enben is right. It's great that you're not an enemy. Luvia also said. You're making it sound too serious. Wuming laughed. The enemy is more difficult to deal with than you think. Speaking of the enemy, we still don't know the exact situation of the enemy. Big brother, can you explain to us about the Ainsworth family? Ilya looked at Wuming curiously. Ainsworth family, huh? Wuming thought for a moment. Okay then. Then, they moved to the conference room. Wuming sat solemnly at the head of the table. Everyone sat in their own seats and looked at Wuming meticulously. First of all, the Ainsworth family is a family that specializes in substitution magic. However, because they specialize in substitution magic, they have developed the originally inferior substitution magic to its peak. No matter if it's space, personality, heroic spirit power, or even traveling to a parallel world, they can do it all. That's how they created the class cards. As he spoke, Wuming took out 6 class cards and slapped them on the table. Just in case, may you, Ilya, take these 6 class cards first. As he spoke, Wuming tossed the class cards to Mayu and Ilya. Hey, shoo, Ilya made a cute sound with the help of the card. I'll teach you dream summoning personally later. Mayu and Ilya nodded. The Ainsworth family usually relies on heroic spirit cards and substitution magic. They don't have any effective strategies for this. Well, I'm not prepared to let you go to the battlefield anyway. Wuming waved his hand. Everyone was stunned. What do you mean by not letting us go to the battlefield? Rin and Osaka slammed the table and stood up. You didn't hear wrong. It's the literal meaning, Wuming said calmly. Let's not talk about you and Luvia. I'm not prepared to let Mayu and Ilya go to the battlefield either. But, brother Wuming. Mayu looked at Wuming with some reluctance. Ilya did the same. I don't have a choice. The enemy's battlefield is no ordinary disaster. I gave you the class cards so that you can protect yourselves. In truth, Wuming had never intended to let them go to the battlefield. Whether it was before or after they persuaded Wuming. Chapter 283. I've always been prepared to attack Ainsworth from the front, whether you come or not, Wuming said solemnly. That's because Ainsworth's army is an army of heroic spirits. As soon as Wuming said that, everyone's eyes narrowed. Wait a minute. Are you saying that Ainsworth has created a lot of class cards? Luvia asked, puzzled. No matter how they thought about it, it was impossible, right? Everyone could not help but think. It's indeed impossible, but the opponent has an item that can mass-produce black mud followers. Black mud followers? That's right. Those are inferior heroes who failed in their pursuit of the Holy Grail. As long as their obsession is not destroyed, they can be resurrected infinitely. Wuming could not help but think of the scene where he was tricked. Countless black mud covered the sky and covered the earth. The black mud came from an item in Julian's hand, Pandora's box. Wuming had seen clearly that there were followers hidden in the black mud. However, in order to deal with Wuming, these followers were turned into waves by the black mud and engulfed Wuming. Moreover, what worried Wuming the most was that the black mud was mixed with the root dragon's aura, which was the aura of the great root. This was equivalent to increasing the power of these black mud followers. Against such a group of powerful troops who were not afraid of death and could resurrect infinitely, Ilya and the others could not deal with it. Leave the specifics to me. Wuming shook his head and did not continue. I didn't expect your help in the first place. Naturally, I didn't include you in the battle force. After all, this is a plan that I've been planning for a long time. My original plan was to only bring Mayu to fight against Ainsworth. But, it's rare for us to come here and help Big Brother. Ilya lowered her head in disappointment. Ilya. Mayu comforted Ilya. Indeed. If it's really as Master said, and the enemy has an army that can resurrect infinitely and isn't afraid of death, I don't think we can defeat them. Bazit said seriously. Wuming sighed when he saw the disappointment on everyone's faces. After all, Wuming didn't take them into account, so Ilya and the others weren't part of his initial plan. However, we can't be sure that the other party won't create new dolls and class cards, so I have a new plan, Wuming said again to comfort everyone. Does this mean that we can help Big Brother? Ilya's eyes lit up. Wuming waved his hand. Well, that's only if the other party has card users of other ranks. Before I explain the plan, let me pick up 2 people first. Pick someone up. Ah, that's right. Pick someone up. Wuming laughed mischievously. In the main hall of the Shuoyu residence. A red-haired boy with orange pupils and a purple-haired girl with purple pupils stood together. Looking at the way they held hands, it was obvious that they were a couple. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Shiro Amiya. Nice to meet you, I'm Sakura Madu. Nice to meet you. The two of them greeted a large number of unfamiliar faces politely. That's right. The two of them were Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu, who were saved by Gem Master. They were now brought back by Wuming. After Wuming and Mayu left, just as Shiro Amiya was about to be captured by Angelica, Zelik appeared and took Shiro Amiya away. As for Sakura Madu, she had been taken away by Zelik earlier, so Angelica could only find Shiro Amiya in the Amiya mansion. Amiya-kun. Rin Dosaka had a shocked expression. Sorrow. Luvia had a look of disbelief. Brother. Ilya and Xiaohei were dumbfounded. As for Bazet, since he didn't know Shiro Amiya at all, he didn't make a fuss about it. Shiro Nii-chan, Sakura Nii-chan, long time no see. Mayu, on the other hand, bowed politely after seeing the two of them. Mayu, long time no see, Shiro greeted with a smile. Thank you for your concern, Mayu-chan, Sakura Madu replied gently. On the other hand, young Gil kept sizing up Shiro Amiya. Is this sensei's younger brother in this world? Although he looks good, I feel disgusted. For some reason, young Gil didn't like Shiro Amiya. Why is brother here? Ilya's eyes widened as she looked at Wuming in disbelief. Rin Dosaka and Luvia, who had calmed down, reacted. I'm afraid he's Shiro Amiya in this parallel world, the two of them said. Well. Anyway, that's how it is. Wuming, who was standing at the side, shrugged. Shiro is a human who doesn't need a class card to unleash the power of a heroic spirit. Everyone instantly looked at Shiro Amiya in surprise. Well. Brother is right. Due to an accident, I connected to myself in a parallel world. After I died in that world, I became a heroic spirit. Shiro Amiya helplessly touched the back of his head. That's amazing. To be able to become a heroic spirit, as expected of brother, Ilya said in surprise. Indeed, even if you become a heroic spirit in a parallel world, it also means that you have the qualifications to become a heroic spirit in this world, Bazet said solemnly. By the way, Little Black, your card is Amiya the heroic spirit. Is that for real? Little Black was shocked. Wuming didn't say anything. He only smiled and shrugged. Speaking of which, Wuming looked at Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu who were holding hands. Looks like you and Sakura have made good progress while I was away. Shiro, when are you going to officially meet me as your guardian? Wuming looked at Shiro Amiya with a smile. When Wuming said that, Sakura Madu's face instantly turned red. Big brother. Amiya could only laugh dryly. Rin and Osaka and Luvia's expressions darkened. Although the Shiro Amiya in front of them wasn't the Shiro Amiya they knew, no matter what, the Shiro Amiya in this world was indeed Shiro Amiya. Seeing Shiro Amiya with another woman, the two of them felt uneasy. Bam! Bam! After 2 consecutive karate chops, Rin and Osaka and Luvia calmed down. Well, no matter what, I'll congratulate the two of you. Before Wuming picked up Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu, he learned from Zelik that the two of them were sent by Zelik to be under Emilo II's management and become his disciples. Wuming felt that this was a good thing. Wuming had met Emilo II before, and he was a very reliable magician. Zelik told the two that Wuming and Mayo's situation was very safe and that they didn't need to worry. They only needed to study in the clock tower. Therefore, during this period of study, Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu's relationship quickly warmed up and they quickly became a couple. Congratulations, big brother and big sister. Congratulations, Shiro, Gij, big sister Sakura. Congratulations to the two newlyweds. Congratulations. Apart from Rin and Osaka and Luvia, the others naturally congratulated the three of them. Thank you, everyone. Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu smiled. Well, it won't be too late to hold the wedding after everything is settled. After saying that, everyone became extremely serious. Chapter 284. They redistributed their seats and sat in the meeting room. Wuming still sat at the head of the table. Rin Enbin, Luvia, Shiro Amiya, and Sakura Madu sat on Wuming's left. Bazet, Ilya, Little Black, and Meiyu sat on Wuming's right. Gil sat across from Wuming. Since everyone is here, let's start the official allocation. Wuming crossed his arms in front of his chest with a solemn expression. Everyone felt the solemn atmosphere and puffed out their chests. Since the other party's goal is the Holy Grail, Ilya, Little Black, and Meiyu will be on standby at the Shuoyue mansion. Wuming was the first to speak. Why is it like this? Ilya said with slight displeasure. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. The other party's goal is the Holy Grail. Other than Meiyu, you and I might also be the other party's target, Little Black advised. Although Meiyu was slightly dissatisfied, she was also someone who knew the severity of the situation. Hence, she nodded. When Ilya saw that her two companions agreed with Wuming's words, she could only nod helplessly in the end. Well, don't be unhappy. I'll make something nice for you later. Wuming comforted Ilya. Really? Big brother is the best. Ilya smiled happily. Boo-hoo. Big brother is unfair. I want to eat too. Little Black looked like an abandoned puppy. He lay on the table and stared at Wuming. That. Meiyu also looked at Wuming hesitantly. She knew that she could not always cause trouble for her big brother. However, Meiyu really wanted to eat her big brother's delicacies. Wuming did not know whether to laugh or cry. Then let's make glutinous rice balls. There will be a share for all three of us. How about that? Little Black said excitedly. I'm looking forward to it. Ilya said expectantly. Mayu nodded lightly. Looking at the three of them who were extremely happy, Wuming smiled from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, there was a loud bang. Rin Enbin slammed the table and stood up. You guys. We're in the middle of a battle conference. Can you be more serious? Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu smiled awkwardly but did not say anything. After all, he was their big brother. They had to give him some face. However, the others didn't give him any face, especially Rin and Osaka and Lu Weiya, who had been provoked. Ahem, after all, this is the enemy's time, so let's hurry up. Lu Weiya said angrily, and then turned her head away. Needless to say, Lu Weiya didn't want to see the palace guard, who was already taken, showing off his affection. Ahem, sorry, let's continue with the battle conference. Wuming coughed awkwardly. The three little Lolas also blushed. Rin Enbin and Luzes, you too. To be honest, Wuming had a headache. Although these two girls were students of the clock tower, they were comparable to first-class magicians. However, in a battle where servants were involved, they were undoubtedly useless. You could say that they were a little hurt, but it happened that the damage they caused was not a big deal at all. Wuming touched his forehead, thought for a moment, and then said. How about this, you two also stay in Shoasuke's house. In this regard, Rin Enbin and Luz didn't show much dissatisfaction. Although they said that they wanted to help, after knowing that the enemy was a servant, they basically gave up the idea of going to the battlefield. Although it was a bit of putting the cart before the horse, Rin Enbin and Luz still wanted to thank Wuming for not treating them as a burden. After all, Wuming didn't want them to come here together. Because of their personal reasons, they were brought here by Wuming. For such a result, the two couldn't say that they were disappointed, but they couldn't say that they were happy. After all, no one wanted to be treated as a useless guy. But, you're different from Ilya and the others. You need to help me drive Shoasuke's. Ha! The two were not surprised by Wuming's SSSS. That. Big brother, what do you mean by driving Shoasuke's? Rin Enbin and Luz were puzzled. Ilya and the others were also quite puzzled. It means literally. Wuming finished and snapped his fingers. Then, with a pop sound, countless blue semi-virtual screens appeared in the conference room. On the countless blue virtual screens in the conference room, almost all of them showed something that not only Ilya and the others couldn't understand, but even Shiro Amiya, who lived with Wuming for a long time, couldn't understand. Wuming's hand gently moved, and a large number of blue virtual screens were removed, and a special virtual screen floated above Wuming's head. The reason why it was special was that this screen was all about Shoasuke's and the surrounding real-time surveillance, including the surveillance of the conference room. Looking at the countless partitions, everyone was surprised. Is this a magic workshop? No matter how I look at it, it looks like a laboratory. Rin Enbin said helplessly. Well, this is a temple I modified according to modern times. Not only does it have real-time surveillance, but it also has visual obstruction enchantment, magic suppression enchantment platform, autonomous attack chain enchantment, and other autonomous enchantments for attack, defense, and investigation. It also has space folding technology. As long as it is activated, the internal space of Shoasuke's will be instantly enlarged by 100 times, and I have set up all kinds of traps that can be imagined. In addition, there are flight and transformation functions, and after referring to Gil's Vimana, I also added a few nuclear warheads. Wuming said, pointing to the innocent young Gil. Everyone looked at Wuming, who was talking non-stop, and they were all stunned, looking at Wuming blankly. All in all, this is a multifunctional strategic mobile fortress. I named it Shoasuke Temple. Wuming finished and breathed a sigh of relief. No wonder I always felt that the house has become a little different. It turned out that it was transformed by my brother. Shiro Amiya sighed. No, Shiro Oniai-san, Brother Wuming did not transform Amiya Mansion, but built a new one in the parallel world. Mayu pointed out Shiro Amiya's misunderstanding. Well, when I built this house, it was not only to be my and Mayo's home. I have been planning to counterattack Ainsworth, of course, I have to be prepared. Wuming waved his hand, indicating that everyone should not make a fuss. Since I met you, my heart has almost gotten used to it. Same, Rin and Osaka and Luvia both sighed at the same time. Well, at first, I just wanted to build a defense base, and it slowly developed into this. Wuming scratched his head. In short, your task is to be responsible for assisting us on the battlefield. I will teach you how to use it later. Then, Wuming turned his head and looked at Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu. Shiro, Sakura, I ask you two again, do you really want to participate? Chapter 285. Wuming asked Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu when he went to pick them up from England. Do you really want to participate in this battle? I've already returned and am fully prepared. It doesn't matter if you don't participate. Wuming said. Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu answered. Brother, I've been working hard to learn magic here just to wait for this day. I'll be wherever Senpai is. And now, their answers were exactly the same as before. Mayo's friends have all come to this world. As her brother, I can't fall behind. I'll be wherever Senpai is. This is also my way of repaying Brother Wuming for saving my life. Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu's eyes were filled with determination. I'm really an idiot for asking you such a question. Wuming shook his head self-deprecatingly. Since you've already decided, then as your brother, I can only fully support you. Shiro and Sakura, you two will be in charge of the attack on Julian. Wuming arranged. However, when he mentioned Julian, Shiro Amiya still felt a little gloomy. After all, he considered himself to be a good friend. By the way, Shiro, I'll help you adjust your body later. And Sakura, remember to give me your rank card later. Rank cards created by those things, even if it's just pure strength, will erode your mind if you use it for a long time. Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu both nodded. Then, Wuming looked at Bazette, who had been silent all this time. Wuming actually didn't know how to deal with Bazette. Originally, it was only because of his bad taste that he let Bazette become a servant of the Shuayu residence, and he was half forced to come to the parallel world with him. After all, the backlight sword was a super bug-like existence. Even if Wuming's heart was super strong, he wouldn't dare take this causal weapon head-on. Who knew if his heart was strong enough? After all, the backlight sword only changed karma to strike the heart, and it didn't necessarily pierce through the heart. Of course, if his main body was here, there was nothing to be afraid of. You don't have to care about what I think. This is a mission given to me by the higher-ups. The only thing I can do is fight. Bazette seemed to know what Wuming was thinking, so he said this. Bazette had received news from his superiors that he was to follow Hyunryong to the parallel world, complete all his instructions, and bring back as much information as possible. Of course, those were added by Bazette's superiors. After all, it wasn't easy for them to come to parallel world, so how could they not collect some items? As for the matter of Wuming going to the parallel world, Wuming had told Zelik that there was no need to deliberately hide it. Instead of letting the higher-ups who were worried about Wuming's departure have wild thoughts and add trouble to Wuming, it was better to let them feel at ease and be obedient. Since you've said so, follow me to the battlefield. Then, follow Shiro and Sakura as a member of the execution team and attack the enemy leader. After all, you're not the type to fight in groups. I understand. Bazette nodded solemnly. Finally, Wuming looked at young Gil, who was sitting opposite him, and said, Then, the last one is you, my disciple. Teacher, do you have a mission? I will be very obedient. Young Gil smiled elegantly and gently. No matter how one looked at him, he looked like an innocent and beautiful boy. If it's you, you don't need me to assign you a mission. Just act according to the situation, Wuming said with a look of disdain. Why are you like this, teacher? Young Gil looked at Wuming as if he had been bullied. Well, but since it's teacher's words, I can only obey. Wuming ignored young Gil and looked at everyone. Then that's it. Ilya, Mayu, and Blackie will stay behind at the Shuoyu mansion and act according to the situation. Ling and Livia will be responsible for driving the Shuoyu mansion as support. Shiro, Sakura, and Bazette will be the execution team, specifically targeting Julian. Gil will roam the battlefield, and I will be responsible for resisting the army. Does anyone have any questions? At this moment, Ilya raised her hand. Ilya. Wuming called her name. Yes, I want to know how Big Brother is going to resist the servant army. Is he going to fight alone? If not, Mayu, Blackie, and I can also help. Ilya said with concern. You don't have to worry about this at all. The one who spoke was not Wuming, but Shiro Amiya. Big Brother has an army. Shiro Amiya was naturally talking about the golem Wuming summoned from Nazalik. At that time, because of various skills flying around on the battlefield, countless golem that were comparable to low-level servants were lost, and the rest were swallowed by the black mud in their struggle. Fortunately, those were only projections, and Wuming could naturally continue to summon them. However, even if there were many small soldiers, they were still small soldiers in front of an expert. However, Wuming naturally had a new idea. You don't need to worry about that. I'm not going to fight against an army alone. Wuming smiled. Well, I'll adjust Shiro's physical condition first. Everyone else, go and rest first. For a moment, only Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu were left in the conference room. Sakura Madu stayed behind to give the rank card to Wuming later, and to accompany Shiro Amiya. Well, take off your clothes first. Wuming spoke first. Oh! Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu both exclaimed. Looking at Sakura Madu, who was blushing, and looking at Shiro Amiya, who was slightly embarrassed, Wuming shook his head. Looking at the two's performance, Wuming knew that the two probably hadn't reached that stage yet. They probably just held hands, hugged, and kissed. It's going to happen sooner or later anyway. Hurry up and take it off. Do you need me to help you? Wuming narrowed his eyes, looked at Shiro Amiya, and said threateningly. I know, Big Brother. As someone who lived with Shiro Amiya for almost 5 years, Shiro Amiya naturally understood Wuming's temperament. Therefore, Shiro Amiya quickly took off his clothes, leaving only his underwear on. The naked Wei Gong Shirlang revealed a body full of strength but not exaggerated muscles. This was the legendary saying, wearing clothes makes one look thin, but taking off clothes makes one look muscular. At this moment, Sakura Madu, who was looking at her lover's body, was already blushing and didn't dare to look over. Ahem, I only told you to take off your upper body. Why did you take off your lower body? Wuming laughed mischievously. Shiro Amiya, who was still blushing, suddenly looked helpless. This is good, it's easier to adjust your body. Wuming quickly said. Then, Wuming snapped his fingers, and a device similar to a man-made transparent culture tank rose from the floor of the conference room. Chapter 286. Let's go in, Wuming said. Shiro Amiya looked at Wuming, then looked at Sakura Madu, and then walked toward the open container. When he reached the opening, Wuming pushed Shiro Amiya, and then slammed the container door shut. Really, this is not a life and death parting, do you have to be so serious, sigh young people nowadays. Wuming pretended to shake his head helplessly. Shiro Amiya and Sakura Madu, who were originally shocked, were slightly embarrassed after hearing Wuming's words. Noble and powerful, wise and kind, that is, I will incarnate into a miracle and lead the world to the dawn. Wuming didn't say much nonsense and directly activated the magician incarnation. After all, this was a problem with magic, and this incarnation was more useful. Wuming stood in front of the container and stretched out a hand. Then, let's begin. After that, a golden magic circle the size of Wuming's palm appeared and kept rotating. The container, which originally only contained Shiro Amiya, was instantly filled with liquid, and Shiro Amiya blew a bubble. The originally featureless container also began to glow. Senpai. Sakura Madu ran to the front of the container worriedly. Oniai-sama, what's going on, won't Senpai drown? Looking at Sakura Madu's anxious expression, Wuming smiled helplessly. Don't worry, these are just some liquid that can make people get oxygen in an environment where they can't breathe. They are often used in the creation of androids, so don't worry. After hearing Wuming's words, Sakura Madu relaxed and breathed a sigh of relief. I used hypnosis magic, Shiro, you can have a good sleep. When you wake up, you will find that your body is very good. Wuming's words faintly, Shiro Amiya's eyelids began to slowly close in the container. Wuming stretched out his hand and took out a book from the golden ripples that appeared at the side. That book was Wuming's noble phantasm, the nameless spellbook. Then, I'll start. After that, Wuming closed his eyes, held the nameless spellbook in one hand, and the other hand was flat on his chest, pointing to the container where Shiro Amiya was, and the magic circle on his palm began to change. With the addition of the magician avatar, Wuming could now directly release some magic without chanting, which was the case now. Many magic spells on the nameless spellbook were frequently used by Wuming, constantly acting on Shiro Amiya. In addition to producing culture fluid to make people fall asleep, this culture tank also had the effect of enhancing magic, playing a supporting role. After all, this was designed by Wuming, and it was basically according to Wuming's habits. Wuming stopped the magic circle in his hand, closed the nameless spellbook, and opened his eyes. Oniai-sama, is it done? Sakura Madu asked with some uncertainty. Wuming smiled helplessly. How is that possible? Shiro's body is even more broken than I thought. Shiro Amiya used his future heroic spirit class card in the parallel world many times, but because he had to send Meiyu away, Shiro Amiya gave up the class card. After that, because the heroic spirit on the class card was the same person as Shiro Amiya, the class card and Shiro Amiya became synchronized. After losing the class card, Shiro Amiya could still continue to use the power of the heroic spirit on the class card. In short, as Shiro Amiya continued to use this power, he began to gradually become a heroic spirit. However, for an ordinary person, this synchronized was a bit too much. Shiro Amiya's body couldn't withstand the burden of becoming a heroic spirit. The power of the heroic spirit was wreaking havoc in Shiro Amiya's body, and if he used this power, it would increase the erosion of the heroic spirit. Not only that, but the class card created by Ainsworth also had the power to erode one's heart and even the body. Every card user's heart would be eroded by the heroic spirit on the class card. Although it wasn't much, over time, their personality would become more like that of the heroic spirit. Perhaps because of the black mud, these class cards had the ability to erode the user's body. This caused Shiro Amiya's body to become quite broken. Wuming told all this to Sakura Madu. Sakura Madu covered her mouth in disbelief and stared blankly at Shiro Amiya. I really didn't expect Shiro to be able to persevere. Wuming sighed. Senpai. Sakura Madu's eyes began to moisten, which was a sign that tears were about to flow out. Well then, Sakura, please move aside. I'm going to start treating Shiro. Sakura Madu turned her head to look at Wuming in shock. Wuming naturally knew why Sakura Madu was like that. Well, I didn't say that there was no way to save him. I just said that Shiro's body was seriously damaged. Wuming turned his head away and said unnaturally. I was just joking. Who knew that Sakura would fall into my trap? I'm sorry. Well, really, Oniai-sama is so annoying. Sakura Madu stopped crying and smiled. If you want to apologize, wait until I completely heal Shiro. Wuming smiled apologetically. Then, Wuming opened the nameless spellbook again. He still held the book in one hand and held the other hand in front of him, pointing in Shiro's direction. Just like before, a large number of palm-sized magic circles appeared on Wuming's palm. The magic circles were interlocked and intertwined. Then, under Wuming's command, they attached themselves to the culture tank. The culture tank that was originally shining shone even more brightly. Sakura Madu looked at this scene worriedly. No matter what, Shiro Amiya's body was seriously injured. After a long and short wait, Wuming stopped the magic circle in his hand and closed the nameless spellbook. The magic circle attached to the culture tank also turned into magic and disappeared. The culture tank also lost its light, and the culture fluid inside quickly disappeared. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Go and see Shiro, Sakura. Wuming smiled at Sakura Madu. Yes, thank you so much, Onie-sama. Thank you so much. Sakura Madu bowed to Wuming again and again. Wuming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After all, Shiro is my brother, and you are my sister-in-law. Looking at Sakura Madu who was walking towards the culture tank, Wuming said softly. Puchi, with this sound, the culture tank opened. Cough, cough, cough. Shiro Amiya, who had just adapted to the culture fluid, was not used to the air and coughed a few times as soon as he came out. Senpai, are you okay? Sakura Madu rushed forward and supported Shiro Amiya. I'm fine, Sakura. I'm just not used to the air. Now, I feel like all the impurities in my body have been removed. It's very relaxed. Shiro Amiya smiled and then said as he felt his body. Now, no matter how you use that power, it won't have any effect on your body, Shiro. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.